We'll call this meeting of the Oceanside City Council to order and start with a roll call, please.
Mayor Weiss.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Kime.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
And if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. Our first presentation is going to be for the city's Senior on the Go Transportation Program. So CJ, if you and your guests would like to join us, please.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is CJ Palmer with the City of Oceanside, and I help run our Seniors on the Go, or Go Oceanside Transportation Program, which helps serve our senior community age 65 and older with free rides to medical-related appointments. And we operate through Parks and Recreation, and it's a great program. Appreciate the council and the city staff for supporting this program. We cannot provide rides to all these appointments because we have over 2,100 seniors in our program right now. So we're thankful for partnerships like KOCT, who are local, who can assist with some of those rides, and we want to pass the microphone over to them.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here. KOCT is a proud partner with the City of Oceanside. We provide Oceanside senior van services serving the mobility needs of the community. So primarily disabled, elderly, people that need to have rides. So we're a brokerage service. We began this partnership in 2013. We have provided 30,000 rides for community members here in the city of Oceanside. And according to the city, we've saved them about 30% on these rides. And the feedback from the riders are right here, so I want to kind of read those off real quick for you. So one of the quotes is, "This program is a blessing. Without you, I would have no other way to get my cancer treatment. Thank you. Because of this program, I have been able to visit my husband at the nursing home. He gets very anxious if I'm not there at a certain time, and I can always trust you get me there. On behalf of KOCT Board, I'm pleased to present to the City of Oceanside and the Mayor and the Council with the 2019 KOCT Partner of the Year Award. It's called the Noreen Sigafus Award. And congratulations, and thank you for allowing us to help your community."
Well, thank you very much for the award, and thank you for the service you provided. I know it's an outstanding service, and unfortunately, it's a needed service. And we appreciate your partnership with the city and your ongoing contributions. So thank you. At this time, we'll have our Small Business Saturday presentation by Main Street. Tomorrow, do you want to be up here or up here?
I could be up here. It's a little presentation. I did not expect an audience, but thank you guys. Thanks. All here for you, buddy. Oh, what happened? Time out, guys. Yeah, I just need to pull it from here. All right. Well, welcome to Small Business Saturday, guys. All right. I think I'm good now. My name is Gumaro Escarcega with Main Street Oceanside. Thanks for having me here, council members, city manager, and attorney. So basically, we're going to here to talk about Shop Local Oceanside. This is our 4th annual doing this, which I think I screwed this up already. There you go. So basically, this is our 4th year doing this. This will start November 30th through December 11th. As you can see, our sponsor has been very critical here, City of Oceanside Economic Development Department, Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, Visit Oceanside, and the San Diego Gas and Electric has been supporting this program for the last 4 years. So thank you guys for your support. So basically, what is it? So it's a lot of stuff going on during this 2-week series of events, but the main point of this program is a Shop Local program, which is a passport. We have about 45 businesses participating. It's where the consumers here behind me can go and shop at local businesses and win prizes. This is like a loyalty rewards program. We have gifts from Play Try, Reap and Sow, you name it. There's 45 businesses donating to this project. Also, we have makers that will be over 40 makers giving out prizes as well. Also, the San Diego County Community Enhancement Grant has supported this program, so we're giving out $400 to $500 value prizes, and that will be shared for the community during this time frame from November 30th through December 11th. So what we have going on is we have a sip and shop event taking place on November 30th from 1 to 4. It's going to take place in downtown Oceanside. We have 16 sip stop locations. 13 of them is alcohol beverages, and 3 of the others are local non-alcoholic beverage, which highlights Camp Coffee, Bliss and Treats, and also Pure View Coffee. It's a ticketed event. It's $20 per person. You can buy by logging into shoplocaloceanside.com, or if you don't want to RSVP with us, you can pay $25 the day of. So please RSVP if you want to save $5. Also, like I said earlier, the Merry Makers Fair will be taking place in Artist Alley. If you guys are not familiar with Artist Alley, it's between Mission Avenue and Pureview Way behind Coast Highway. It's going to take place on November 30th from 10 to 4, and then on Sunday from 10 to 2. There's over 40 makers, and also we're going to be using the fountain, of the city's fountain there to also highlight some of the makers. It's a free event, so come support some makers there. Also, we have a window decorating contest. We have 18 participating businesses. There's going to be judge. It's cash prizes as well, so we're encouraging businesses to be able to decorate their facades so they can be in the spirits in the holiday. And thank you, Councilwoman Mr. Sanchez, for being one of the judges this year. Thank you so much. And so come out after December 1st. There'll be more than 18, but 18 will be judged according to how festive they are and how they want to decorate their storefront. Also, we are partnering with South Oceanside. This is a city-wide event. So South Oceanside will have a South O Walkabout. That's going to close the passport program. So we're encouraging people to shop at the retailers over there during the 5 to 8 o'clock. It's a free event. There will be some activities happening there, so come and enjoy the uniqueness and fun of South Oceanside as well. And then also, can't forget the annual tree lighting for the City of Oceanside. That will take place on December 5th from 5 to 8, and that is in conjunction to the Sunset Market on Mission Avenue. So come and celebrate with Santa, and that will kick off our Sunset Market gift market. So if you guys have any questions about this event, please visit shoplocaloceanside.com. There's everything you need to know in there. There's fun activities, fun events, a lot of cool prices, and this is a great, unique time to go find our hidden treasures here in the city with our retailers. So I don't want to take much of your guys' time, and thank you so much for the opportunity to showcase what we've been working for here this last couple of months. Any questions?
I just have I don't drink, so is there a section of that could have 16 ice cream stops?
I can work on that, Jack, I can definitely see what I can do, You ask, I deliver, man. So thank you, though. Appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to item 3, Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. The City Council met in closed session at 3:30 to discuss item 2 on the closed session agenda, conference with real property negotiator involving the 3 parcels of land at the southwest corner of Apple Street and Greenbrier Drive. The assessor parcel numbers are listed on page 2 of the agenda. Negotiating parties, City of Oceanside and National Community Renaissance. Negotiator for the city, Douglas Edow. Under negotiations are price and terms for the acquisition of the real property. The council did meet and give direction. There's no action, though, to report under the Brown Act. In addition, there was no meeting on item 1, the labor negotiation item.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to our consent calendar, which are items 4 through 15. Councilmember Sanchez?
Move approval.
Do we have any speakers on any of those items?
No speakers.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
With that, we'll go to item 16, which is introduction of an ordinance regarding a social host. And I'll invite our police chief, Frank McCoy, on item 12, since Adam's not here. Malloy.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, council members. This particular item is just an amendment to an ordinance that the City Council approved back on May 7, 2003, a social host ordinance. This ordinance had more to do with alcohol, but since the voter-approved initiative Prop 64 in 2018, which makes it legal to cultivate and possess marijuana, we specifically would like to amend this ordinance to include cannabis in its purview for us to enforce. And I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Any speakers?
Item number 16.
Deputy Mayor Feller?
So the cannabis is age 21 as well as the alcohol.
Cannabis for recreational use is age 21, yes, sir.
What do you do if everybody has a medical ID card at one of these parties?
If they are all over the age of 18 and have a medical ID card, then that would not, this ordinance would not pertain to them.
Okay, I figure they're always looking for an angle, so might as well open it up now, so thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you, Chief. We have been hearing news about vaping and how dangerous that is for our kids, and it's not included in this. Is that something you're looking at as a separate item?
Honorable Councilmember Sanchez, to be honest, I'm not sure if we are looking at vaping at this point. I know there's a lot of legislation that's looking to be moving forward at the state level, but I'm not sure if we're looking at anything at the local level at this point.
Can I ask our city manager whether I know that there was some information that was presented to us requesting some kind of action.
Councilmember, yes, the city staff has received information about potential vaping ordinances which are under review, and staff intends to review that and bring something forward to council for action.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move that we introduce the ordinance. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Mullen?
This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending sections 20.27 and 20.28 concerning consumption of alcohol, cannabis, and controlled substances by minors and juveniles.
And please vote.
Approved, 5-0.
We'll go to 19. Do we have any speakers on off-agenda items?
We have 4 speakers on off-agenda items. Our first speaker is Michael Odegaard, to be followed by Arlene Hammerschmidt, to be followed by Joe Hill. As I call your name, please make your way to the next available microphone.
Hopefully to be followed by Kathy Kinane.
To be followed by Kathy.
I think Turkey should take, be a priority.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Arlene Hammerschmidt, Fire Mountain, in Oceanside. I am here speaking on my own behalf, representing only myself, and with this message, which I kind of, there's enough time. Council members, attorney, and Dina. All right. I request the following council motion at this time. Direction to staff to solicit public input when researching subjects at council's direction, using the same avenues employed for recent general plan amendment updates and city events, which have been email to everyone on the I want notice of everything possible going on in the city list. Number 2, posts on Nextdoor and Facebook posts from the city of Oceanside. Number 3, front page on the city website to solicit public input in the same manner that the city of Oceanside solicits public input for general plan amendments and city events, notifying of city events, because this is one of those transparency possibilities. This is how to get public involved so public knows what's going on. Instead of just saying, well, we're open to public input. If it's important, solicit. If it's important enough to direct staff to research something, then make this motion. And I would request that of you at this time, please. Thank you.
Joe Hill, to be followed by Kathy Kinane.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. Joe Hill, 2855 Rutgers Place, Oceanside, 20 years. Just want to start the party off tonight and show, and I want to submit it to be on the record, what the political contributions have been from integral communities for the last 4 years, from 2014 to 2018 election. $23,000 plus. You can see that the you can see that the donations were given in quite a deliberate way. Not great amounts, but all the integral principals, plus some of their family, and also companies that they managed, which don't say integral communities on them. Of course, the biggest receiver of contributions was former Councilman Jerry Kern, who's not here, or if he is here, he had the most money, $14,000. We have people like Gil Mertenberger, Nina Hammond contributing, the Waits, Craig Manchester, all of the normal integral people. We even have Jack here, Mr. Feller, recipient of $4,450. Gary Feline, if I pronounced the name wrong, if I didn't, I apologize, $4,800. So the fact that there's only 1 or 2 members available, still on the council now, just leads me to believe that in getting with the hearings that are going on TV, why I don't think we're looking for a quid pro quo here, but it could happen. I mean, you have a chance to make the vote right and get it right for sure tonight. So thank you very much.
Kathy Kinane, to be followed by Donna Geierman. And last call for Michael Odegaard.
Good evening, Mayor Weiss, City Council members, City Manager. I want to thank you for supporting the 14th Annual Front Wave Credit Union Oceanside Turkey Trot. It's next week, only 8 days away. And the event is hopefully going to attract between 8,000 and 9,000 people. We're going to hopefully raise $30,000 or $40,000 for the local schools and running programs. And I want to take the opportunity to let everybody know that registration is still available. You can do a group registration of 3 to 10 and save $2 off of every entry fee. And $5 of your entry fee can still go to one of 90 nonprofits that serve Oceanside residents. I'd like to take a minute to thank some of our sponsors. Dick's Sporting Goods returned this year, Tri-City Medical Center, Fraser Farms, Visit Oceanside, 333 Pacific, and of course the City of Oceanside, which allows us to have free parking on Thanksgiving morning. Every participant will get a beautiful green shirt that looks like this and a finisher medal. And we're going to have entertainment along the course. Finish line food, we have Hollandia chocolate milk, some fresh fruit from Fraser Farms. You get free photos, and I'll be honest, 80% of the people either walk or trot the event. So if you don't really consider yourself a runner, you're still welcome to come. That's including everybody here. I know there's quite a few city staff who are registered, and we're very excited about that. We're drawing from 3 countries right now, and 40 states so far already in the first 6,000 people who have registered. And thank you for letting me have just a few minutes of time. Does anybody have any questions?
Peter, I just have one. Can I get my finisher medal at the starting line, please?
I think that might be considered corruption, Jack.
I don't think so. I paid for it.
You did pay for it, but you do have to cross the finish line to get the medal. Oh, yeah, but I know you can do that. I've given you a ride there before.
Well, I'll be looking for you. Thank you.
We're so happy to have you coming and Mayor Weiss to help start the event. And Mayor Weiss will be running the event. We're super happy. Part of his training for the triathlon. So thank you for supporting the trot over these years, and we're looking for a great crowd, and I'm sure that the clouds are going to open and we're going to have some great, beautiful weather on Thanksgiving morning. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Donna Geierman, to be followed by Dirk Yakima. Last call for Michael Odegaard.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. After last Wednesday, I know everyone's been seeing all the comments on Facebook, all the newspaper articles, and we've all been trying to follow it. One council member apologized for us. Councilmember Rodriguez, I have on video where I was walking after we sang our song, and one of the green shirts literally tried to knock the phone out of my hand with their Yes on Y sign. You can say I was filming and she tried to knock it out. That's actually assault. If Integral is really complacent in that whole fiasco, it's a concern. Ninia Hammond was in chambers at 3 o'clock to greet the people and get them in city council chambers, telling them where to sit. There's a picture of the box where the green shirts came from, and it was addressed to Mr. Lance White many months ago. It was not a spur of the moment thing. Now, we've all seen where supposedly one of the staff members from Solutions for Change no longer works there. And I want to be her voice tonight because this is something that she put out on Facebook. Solutions for Change staff, as well as residents, were given little choice. I know because until the day of the meeting, I was an employee. He used his power to instill fear into his staff by telling us that we would receive a paid day off for participating, and if we were not interested, we should find another job. He personally attacked me, stating I did not appear interested in this cause, mostly because I did not understand what we were being asked to do. I was taken into his office and yelled at, telling me to take the rest of the week off. He stated in an email that he called me out due to insubordination and had a right to call me out in front of the entire staff. The residents were not given a choice to attend. Most of them did not know what they were even there for. But their housing and services from Solutions are important to them, and they were fearful to ask questions or refuse to go, because then they will risk being terminated from the program. What happened last week was unfortunate for all involved at Solutions. Those people in recovery should have never been put in that position. It was sickening to know that they were that fearful. They're trying to get their lives together. It was wrong. Thank you.
Dirk Ackerman?
Short notice there. Thank you. Let me get my speech out. Don't start the 3 minutes until I'm ready, okay? This won't take long anyway, so. Good evening, City Council members. Dirk Ackerman, a 30-year resident of Oceanside. I'd like to express my compliments to the City Council for authorizing a sand retention and replenishment study. It's significant that you recognize the urgency, importance, and value of a restored beach to Oceanside. It won't come cheap. It won't come easy. Oceanside has suffered from a displaced sand source for 75 years since the federal government built the harbor. We have a lot of beach to restore. You've taken the very important first step in a journey that will define the future of Oceanside. The tide is changing. Oceanside will hold the federal government accountable for the effects of the harbor construction. We will gather support from our neighboring coastal communities to restore our beaches. And lastly, we will reclaim the authority to manage our coastline from the Coastal Commission. The stakes are high. We are all in. It's a bet, and we have to win. Thank you again for your vision and commitment to restore Oceanside.
Speakers.
With that, we'll go to 20, which is my request to make appointments to two of our commissions, Economic Development Commission and Police and Fire Commission. And I'm going to move that we make those appointments. Councilmember Sanchez?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. 22.
Motion approved, 5-0.
That will go to 22. Mr. Mullen?
22 is the second read and adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Oceanside City Code Chapter 29, establishing wastewater user rate increases. We also have the second read and adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Oceanside City Code Chapter 37, establishing water user rate and external water provider charge increases.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you, and my apologies to the council, to the public, that I didn't make this meeting. That was just the next morning due to the hour. For Wednesday, I think we quit at 11:30 Wednesday night. This is really the first time that I think we're hearing so many protests. I think we received over 3,000 protests. And we are embarking in a lot of infrastructure, building new infrastructure to be able to meet our goal of providing 50% of our own water. And I don't think the public understands why the water rates are going up. I've been actually walking, and people will stop me and say, I want to talk to you about our water rates. And that really hasn't happened in a while, in a very long time. So I think that while I appreciate that staff has done more postings and more outreach to the public by putting information in the water bills and letting people know about the protests and how to protest, I think that we need to do more. I think that as we go forward, because the plan is to do bonding for over $159 million worth of projects. We really need to let the community know why we're doing this, and the fact that these are very specific plans that we have in order to be able to provide that water. Otherwise, we will be at the mercy of the Water Authority, as well as the Metropolitan Water District. And desal water is very expensive. So I am going to support this, but for next year, because we do have an ongoing track for raising fees, this is $5, as I recall, $5. And that's a lot for people. And to be thinking that this is going to be an ongoing thing, I think we really need to get out to the community. I think we need to get onto our own KOCT and really get the community involved. Our city staff goes out to the community when it talks about things that are mandatory, like organics recycling, and has a list of a lot of the homeowners associations and local groups. And I think that that's what we need to do. We need to start going out. So I'm going to support this, but I think we really need to get the community to understand why, and here get the input from the community regarding where we're going on this. Thank you.
Mr. Mullen?
Councilmember Sanchez, could we have you confirm for the record that you reviewed the proceedings for the November 6th public hearing, because you were absent from that meeting, and our code requires that you have reviewed it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Weiss, we have a public comment on this. Yeah. Teresa Masters?
Hello, everybody, council, mayor. On water, I was opening bill today, and I pay auto, and there's an envelope in there. It's not all that difficult to withhold an envelope, which costs money and is part of the postage, to start to reduce what the water department is spending. Other utilities offer senior or income restricted individuals care rates. I have been asking the city of Oceanside, one way or another, every year to consider extending the same care discount to people like myself. Instead, I get a notice that I'm going to be restricted by the state to use 55 gallons per day as an individual. So I look at 10, 11 Sparkletts water bottles and wonder, is this going to bathe me, clean my body, my clothing, my dishes? And I go along with you on a lot of things. How about meeting me partway as someone in need? Mandatory water is a life support, and I don't see you working with me. I hear you saying, this is what we're going to do, and let us know what you think about it. Nothing tells me what I think about it is a twit to any of you. So why have the charade? I just wish it were different. And if you really want to meet your constituents, start listening to us and acting in our behalf. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Feller?
Thank you. Most of what Councilmember Sanchez referred to was talked about. We talked about the more notification going forward, so I hope we're very aware of that. Rates for for one type or class of people, seniors, means somebody else has to pay for their portion of it. So I'm not sure how we can get to the point of reduction. And I only wanted to make mention of those points because it's important for all of us to keep our rates as low as we can. So more notification, this envelope, I mean, I'm sure that can be easily corrected if you're the billing you're referring to. If it's automated billing, there's no reason for an envelope in there. So, so I believe you need a motion. So I move approval.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Right, there was something else that someone asked me to bring up, and that is, for picking up trash, trucks have to go, if they're on both sides of the street, they have to do it twice. And so one of the suggestions is that, well, why don't we put all the trash bins on one side of the street, and that way it's only one trip, and maybe we'll cut down on energy used as well as the charge to residents. So I said I would bring that up to staff. Thank you.
I'll second the motion to adopt. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
How many speakers are there on 21?
On item 21, there are currently 34 speakers.
So we will start with those, but at 6 o'clock, we're going to stop and go to our public hearing item, so we'll do the two again.
Hello, all right, perfect. I'm going to call you up 5 at a time. When you hear your name, please approach the next available microphone. Say your name for the record, and please speak directly into the microphone so we may all hear you.
2 minutes, right?
For 2 minutes. So our first speaker is Cindy Rocco, to be followed by Bob Waite, to be followed by Sally Haggerty, to be followed by Arlene Hammerschmidt, to be followed by Scott Ashton. And again, on the podium, you'll see a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. When the red light flashes, please wrap up your remarks.
Oh, hi, Cindy Rocco, Oceanside. The thing that I wanted to bring up about doing this final approval is that this is my personal opinion, is it feels very discriminatory towards the other individuals that own agricultural land out in Morrow Hills, because you've given direction for a moratorium pending a vision plan for like 3,000 acres of owners versus the 200, and it just doesn't make any sense to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and do this change, and then, but wait, you guys, moratorium, none of you guys can do anything with your property. So property rights, it just doesn't seem to make any sense. So I would ask that you would defer North River Farms approval until you do this. If you're subjecting the other landowners to this moratorium, then they also should be subject to that. Of course, I'm not an attorney, Mr. Mullen, but if someone could actually attempt to address that, that would be really great. So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, Mayor Weiss and members of the City Council. My name is Bob Waite, and I am an Arrowwood homeowner and a resident of Oceanside for 38 years. On behalf of myself and the hundreds and hundreds of Arrowwood homeowners who sent emails and letters in support of North River Farms, I wish to thank the three of you who had the wisdom, vision, and courage to vote to approve North River Farms. We're all very grateful that you made the right decision. The right decision for us as their adjacent neighbor, the right decision for the agri community of South Moral Hills, and the right decision for the city of Oceanside. We want this community in our backyard. The wheels are now in motion, so please let me encourage you to get started. I believe we are here tonight not to revisit whether approval was the right decision, because it most definitely was, but I believe we are here to confirm the agreed upon terms and commitments and get this project started. If we look around our downtown area, can we not all see how exciting the growth is in the waterfront? New housing, new retail, new hotels, and plenty of new tourists. This is a window in time that we all know we can't afford to ignore, and a window that we cannot continue if we try to do it alone. We need development partners with real money, partners who are interested and willing to invest in our communities, partners who will invest millions of dollars to improve our roads, intersections, bridges, utilities, and schools, partners with the resources to expand our infrastructure and improve our community safety. North River Farms will be a great community partner in northeastern Oceanside and will no doubt prove to be a landmark step in developing South Moral Hills and their agritourism vision. Let me say again, as an Arrowwood resident, you made the right decision to move forward with North River Farms, so please start tonight. Thank you.
Sally Haggerty, Oceanside. I became aware and active in our city government when codes were no longer being enforced in my neighborhood. Third stories were being added to a neighborhood of height restrictions of 2 stories. After talking with the planning department, it became evident that they felt it was at their discretion to decide what was and wasn't a 3rd story. It took a grassroots effort to bring this to council to have the codes enforced. Next, Fairfield Inn. In this case, a grassroots movement tried to stop a zone change to allow this. The traffic problems Fairfield Inn will bring to Oceanside Boulevard have yet to be realized, but traffic problems there will be. Try driving during morning or evening commute hours now. Wait until the new homes on Vine are sold and the project at the top of the hill comes online. Council voted for a zoning change favoring development, and so it is. Now we have another such project being proposed. North River Farms will require a zoning change. Original zoning should not be changed without an overall land use plan, which are months from getting. Otherwise, we have piecemeal projects at developers' discretion, not planned growth. There are a number of very valid reasons why this should not be approved. No affordable housing, no solar, urban sprawl, and most importantly, safety. If the supporters of this project tout the widening of the bridge on College and North River Road, they do nothing for safety. It will only allow residents in the development easier access to their homes. It does nothing to ease traffic in an emergency. Anyone who's lived here any length of time remembers when I-5 backed up before the merge. Lanes were widened past the merge to help traffic, and now it backs up exactly the same way further up, where the lanes weren't widened. This is what will happen on North River Road. Our fire chief says we won't have the same conditions as a lilac fire, and sheltering place will be an option. Do you really want to trust developers to spend the money to make houses completely burn resistant? I wouldn't. When the evacuation calls comes out, it goes to everyone in the area. This means gridlock. It's time this council does the right thing. Deny this project. The city is watching. Whom do you represent?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Arlene Hammerschmidt, Fire Mountain in Oceanside, California. This t-shirt touches my heart and expresses how I feel about Oceanside. The people who will recognize this logo as a product of CJ Malauulu will probably be the community most hurt by this development. Why, with the moratorium, are we shutting the barn door after the cows are out and then leaving 12 months with the barn door open? Between passing and approving, if you approve it tonight, and the moratorium going in effect, that's a whole year for developers to line up. I request the following motion from you. Rejection of this ordinance, and at the bottom, you can see, and reconsideration of North River Farms after the adoption of the city's updated general plan, last land use element, and updating of affected city ordinances. We're not going away. Your actions here tonight will determine the next course of actions taken by the citizens of Oceanside. Thank you for your attention. Citizens, we're here. Pay attention.
Scott Ashton, to be followed by Nadine Scott, to be followed by Bill Fisher, to be followed by Joe Hill, to be followed by Yvonne O'Bright.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Scott Ashton, CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be very brief. I'm just here to thank you this evening for your forward-thinking decision that you made by supporting North River Farms, and I want to commend you for the bold leadership in helping build a more prosperous city by supporting much-needed housing and infrastructure. I'll just reiterate that this project will make a significant contribution to our housing supply and help reduce the substantial RENA gap that continues to grow. Many employers in Oceanside and surrounding communities face challenges recruiting and retaining employees because we don't have enough housing supply. Thousands of workers make a daily commute from Riverside County to jobs in Oceanside and neighboring communities, and North River Farms will provide a much-needed option for many of these workers. Please continue to support this project so that we can all see a more prosperous future for Oceanside. Thank you.
Good evening, council, staff, and public. My name is Nadine Scott, and I've been working on trying to preserve the neighborhood character in the city for almost 20 years. First, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Sanchez and Councilman Keim for their 2 votes last week. They were the only 2 who really gave their reasons. The rest of you just kind of brushed us off in our concerns. So tonight I urge the rest of you to listen very carefully with the hope that you care more about the safety of Oceanside residents than pie-in-the-sky promises from an out-of-town developer and potential campaign support from Integral in the future. That's so wrong. I can't believe you guys take that money. The public safety improvements that we all think are going to happen will probably never come to fruition. As Mr. Rodriguez said, public safety response times are about 10 minutes for the area. Well, double the standard of 5 minutes. In order to meet that time, it's mandatory to have a permanent fire station in that area fully staffed. Integral's only paying for 2. That means taxpayers get to pay for 4 because we have a full staff agreement with fire. While I love our fire department, they were unaware of 2 conditions. 120, to widen the bridge before the 100th house is built, and the developer will fund a temporary station and only 2 personnel after the 10th home is done. What does that mean? That means there's no money in the community facilities public services budget, period. They're not going to fork that money out of their own pocket. They're expecting the new homeowners to pay for these wish items. Not much of a legacy to leave for our town. Taxpayers end up paying for the project, and people will still be left, as Chief Robertson said, sitting in their cars during a fire. Would you want to be one of them? Please vote no on the zoning change. Stop this project in its tracks. We will not forget your vote during November.
Mayor, council members, I'm Bill Fisher, 510 Estermos Court in Oceanside. I spoke at the last hearing, emphasizing that your decision on this project will determine the future of Oceanside and your legacy. Council members Keim and Sanchez, thank you for your thoughtful vote 2 weeks ago. What I have to say tonight is addressed more directly to Mayor Weiss and council members Feller and Rodriguez. Will you be thoughtful and responsive to the community in your vote tonight? Do you want your legacy to be the preservation of the city's valuable, irreplaceable farmland, or to be remembered for erasing it from the map forever? A net loss of over 150 irrecoverable acres. Your decision 2 weeks ago violated the general plan, the economic development plan, and zoning ordinances. You know this because you immediately asked for a moratorium against building on remaining precious farmland. You could have looked thoughtfully to the future and waited for the updated general plan and the South Morrow Hills specific plan before considering any further development that destroys farmland. But you didn't. Your yes vote tonight will all but ensure that zoning for all land, including agricultural, can be changed at a whim. If any developer adds enough unrelated bonuses to their project. Pay to play? Is this the legacy you embrace? We will remember your decision on Election Day. Those of you who vote for this project tonight will seriously tarnish your legacy, and worse, the legacy of agriculture in Oceanside.
Can you turn this on? Okay. Mayor, City Council, staff, I'm Yvonne O'Wright, 40-year resident of Oceanside. This is an advice letter from the FPPC to County Supervisor Bill Horn, dated October 15, 2015. The question from Mr. Horn was, under the Act, may you participate in decisions regarding the proposed Lilac Hills project, considering you own 36.8 acres of property 1.3 miles away? The conclusion was, from the FPPC, no, you have a conflict of interest because the decisions will have a reasonably foreseeable material financial effect on your real property interest. So Valley Center has maintained its rural character through strict restrictions on land uses and lot sizes. Such factors have considerable influence on the rural characteristics of the community, as well as the visual aspects of the community. So under these facts, a reasonable inference can be made that the financial effect of such a major development in a relatively undeveloped rural area would have a reasonably foreseeable material financial effect on the market value of your real property. I can go on and on and on. It's like 5 pages. On November 15th, I received a letter from the FPPC regarding my sworn complaint of Mr. Rodriguez's conflict of interest, stating they would need more time beyond the typical 14-day period to evaluate the matter. They still have not contacted me with their intent. Perhaps that's because the North River Farms situation mirrors the Lilac Hills situation. The FPPC is a state commission, and it will have the final say on conflict of interest. Should they find a conflict of interest after the vote's finalized, the vote will be nullified.
With that, Zeb, we're going to take a break until 6. I've been asked to take a break, so we're going to take a break until 6, come back with our public hearing, and then we will continue with this item after the public hearing. We're going to call the meeting of the City Council back to order, and we're going to go to our item number 17, our public hearing item, which is on the city's Parks and Rec Master Plan. And I'm going to open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
Staff, much public comment, and that's it.
Just staff and the public. Staff and some public input.
Staff, public, especially with respect to El Corazon uses, and as well as discussions regarding the lack of gyms and basketball courts and football fields and pickleball. I also am on the Parks and Rec Commission, and so I've also been sitting through those hearings, and of course all the emails and discussions. Thank you.
Staff and public.
Megan?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I'm Megan Crooks with the Development Services Department, and this evening I'm here to ask you to adopt the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution adopting the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and including the plan as part of the community facilities element. The master plan update is a continual guidance of future park and recreational facility capital improvements within the park inventory per the city's community facilities element of the general plan. The 2019 update is the third update of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And the community facilities element policy of 5 acres per 1,000 residents for our park acreage calculation remains unchanged in this master plan update. The 5-year capital improvement project program is the implementation tool for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. In the previous update, the 1996 master plan update identified El Corazon Park as one of the facilities to be developed. The 2019 update includes the facilities that were planned through the El Corazon specific plan approved by the City Council in 2009. The update process included a community facilitation process from February 2018 through June 2018, and that community process has continued at Parks and Recreation Commission meetings and will continue as we develop each CIP project with community outreach. Community partners were involved through this community process, and staff really thanks them in keeping us moving along and highlighting all of the priorities of the community. Some that stuck with us through the very first stakeholder meeting through our final public hearing meetings were Save Our Streets, or SOS. They were involved with multiple members attending all of the meetings, and the Friends of El Corazon, as well as our Parks and Rec commissioners and our Friends of Oceanside Parks. That public outreach process included an invitation survey and an intercept survey, which resulted in the same top 3 priorities, which were to improve and renovate existing amenities and facilities at parks, preserve open space, increase trail and pathway connectivity. And the top priorities that were heard at community workshops, stakeholder meetings, and pop-up events, which were from our residents, were to improve outdated facilities, including restrooms, playgrounds, skate spots, and unused spaces within parks. And facilities that are needed in our parks included aquatics, bike facilities and BMX facilities, pickleball, basketball courts, gymnasium, new restrooms, and picnic and shade areas. And there was also a lot of community input on event facility improvements. The park acreage calculation through the Parks Master Plan of 5 acres per 1,000 residents includes 40% of school facilities, 40% of Guajome Regional Park, 35 acres of usable beach, which is down from 60 as calculated previously. And then El Corazon specific plan has 212 acres of park space that would fulfill the year 2035 deficit that was calculated through this plan update of 181 acres. The analysis included in the master plan included a geographic distribution analysis. This departs from the traditional draw a circle around a park or a recreation center for your service area and goes to a geographic information system, park shed analysis, which considers walk time and drive times. For Oceanside, we used a 15-minute walk or a 5-minute drive. There are 3 areas in the city through that park shed analysis that show gaps. And staff recommends these 3 areas to close these gaps. The priorities would be to create pathways or connectivities to parks that are nearby and that you just don't have that 15-minute or 5-minute drive to access them, or to create trails in these areas, which would then act as a park itself, park space, an active recreational use, and that would close the gaps. The last resort, because the development of the El Corazon Park would close our needed acreage, we would recommend as a last resort to develop new parks in these areas. The Parks and Recreation Commission voted on the master plan to recommend City Council approval with a 5-1-2 vote with additions. There was one no vote and 2 abstentions. Those commissioners felt that the plan needed to have the implementation and specific project guidelines and priorities listed in the plan, which the implementation tool, as I stated earlier, is designed to have the capital improvement project 5-year plan be that implementation tool. Additions recommended by the Parks and Recreation Commission were to include an index of acronyms, improve park descriptions of Ivy Ranch Park, and include John Landis, Balderrama, and Melba Bishop and Elkhorn Zone in the park description categories instead of just in the community center section, and to include the Elkhorn Zone specific plan in the section 3.5 potential opportunities per park. Include Joe Balderrama as a location for one of the gymnasiums. And then also another item is we had 3 gymnasiums calculated in the index, and really we only have 2, and so that was a typo, and that was recommended at the Parks and Recreation Commission, which staff is changing. The Planning Commission voted 4-0 vote to recommend the plan. There was one member who expressed a concern that Goat Hill Golf Course is included to analyze the park shed gaps. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution adopting the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and including the plan as part of the community facilities element. And I'll be here for any questions, as well as Mr. Mark Olson, Division Manager of Parks and Recreation. Thank you.
We have speakers?
Yes, we do. Our first 2 speakers are Scott Priest, to be followed by Veronica Sky or Ski, to be followed by William Loftus.
Good evening. My name's Scott Priest. I live on 639 Creekside. A nice view of where the new development will be. I'm here tonight, Mayor and City Council members, as a father of 3, 2 of which are teenagers. Like many other parents in Oceanside and the surrounding areas, I know I'm deeply concerned about the number of teens who are currently using marijuana and who falsely believe it's a harmless substance. As the City Council discusses bringing marijuana storefronts and other marijuana businesses to Oceanside, it is important to remember that retail marijuana storefronts exist to make a profit.
Excuse me, sir, is this on the Parks Master Plan?
No, I don't know why I'm on this list, but I'll be 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then you can. I mean, you called me up. You want me to go off on Gohomie Park? I mean, I'm more than happy to go off on Gohomie Park. Thank you, sir. I will. One of the unintentional and unanticipated consequences is permitting marijuana businesses is with regards to advertising. So you could have a nice guy with a sign right outside of the Park and Recs building, or you can have a nice guy sitting in front of the Gohomie Park entrance, waving a sign. I'll tie it into Park and Recs for you. It becomes very difficult to eliminate or restrict its enticing promotions, especially in the area of social media. And when the city allows a brick and mortar marijuana storefront, it indicates approval of its use. So I go to the Park and Rec's website, or I go to the Park and Rec's Twitter feed or Snapchat, and I can just follow the storefront advertising for the marijuana store. A study shows, and I have a handout for you, that teens who follow marijuana retailers on social media are 5 times more likely to have used marijuana in the past year. This study is a reminder that marijuana businesses are doing all they can to engage younger people. You're not going to have the crowd behind us following marijuana stores on Snapchat and Instagram, okay? This study, and I'll quote by the epidemiologist Sharif Moore, reminded us, quote, "We know that the human brain is an exquisite yet delicate instrument that is not fully developed until the age of 25. This makes adolescents especially susceptible to industry manipulation and addiction," end quote. I respectfully ask the City Council and the Mayor to investigate possible code enforcement regulations and actions that can be taken to protect this vulnerable population sooner rather than later. So if you bring the storefronts in, they're going to advertise, and they're going to advertise highly. They're going to advertise on social media. I'm just asking you to do something about it. Here's the handout for you.
Ready? Hi, my name is Ronnie C., and I'm speaking for the President of the League of Women Voters of North County. Honorable Mayor Weiss and council members, the League of Women Voters encourages informed voting and participation at all levels of government. We're a nonpartisan organization and never supports or opposes political parties or candidates. We base our public statements on positions which are developed after study, review, and adoption by consensus. These comments are based on our positions related to parks, transparency in government, and government financing of public services. We submitted a letter to the Oceanside Planning Commission on September 30th, 2019, and commented on concerns with specific issues. We are pleased that since then, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan has been integrated with the El Corazon Master Plan. We also are pleased to learn that staff intends to bring the council a proposal for the park impact fee study, as adequate funding is a key element for achieving the needed park improvements. However, other concerns raised in the September 30 letter have not been addressed. Number one, there's been no public comment. The master plan was delivered to the Parks Commission on September 5th, 2019, and marked final on its cover. There were no comments on either a timeline or plan to solicit community input. There are a number of concerns of various elements of the Oceanside community, and it is not only appropriate, but also necessary that the public comment on this master plan. Although good demographic and trend information was provided in the report, there is no connection made between the needs of each subpopulation and the improvements that are recommended. This is of specific concern to seniors in Oceanside, because the projected increase in the number of seniors suggests that services for seniors should be of paramount concern. As one example, the poor condition of the only senior center that provides meals is not addressed. The costs and time frame to implement the master plan are unclear. Page 126 includes the only list of short-term recommendations, but there's no cost associated with these priorities. Thank you.
Mayor Weiss and City Council members, my name is Bill Loftus. I'm a Parks and Recreation Commission member and one of the members who did not vote in favor of this plan had serious concerns. And like Ronnie say, my concerns had to do primarily with the lack of addressing the senior centers here in our city. During the 1990s, I served as the assistant superintendent in Vista Unified School District. We built 6 elementary schools, to accommodate the population growth of families and children. 5 of those 6 elementary schools were in the city of Oceanside. Vista Unified is currently faced with declining enrollment, as I think you know that the Oceanside School District is faced with declining enrollment. I'm not saying that we're not going to have children in Oceanside, but this piece of paper, if you can read it, is from the County of San Diego, and it's in general in nature, and it talks about the fact that our senior population is going to be increasing between 2000 and 2030, which is, I think, only 10 years away, 130% compared to a 38% increase in the normal population. And certainly in terms of the children, it's a graying community. More people like me than young parents with children. And the fact that our country club facility is not something that I think we're particularly proud of. And if you look at the El Corazon facility, I think you would agree that it's a beautiful facility, but I don't think a lot of people know that if you're a senior and you want to take an art class there, you have to get on the computer at midnight and hopefully register with MiraCosta to get one of the few spots in those art classes. I visited those classes. I visited the table tennis classes. I know that we don't have space for bingo right now. I'm suggesting to you that currently we don't have the facilities for our senior population. And it's only going to suggest further that in the future, we're going to have a larger impact of seniors needing those services. So I'm not here to advocate for a 3rd senior center. I'm simply saying that in their staff report, I appreciate the fact that Megan commented on the fact that the second bullet, demographics demonstrate the most significant population increase is among seniors age 70 plus, and there's nothing in the plan to address increased senior facilities. So for this city council and for future city councils, they're not going to necessarily draw on this staff report. They're going to look at this, and in it, that plan of action doesn't include anything about senior facilities. Thank you.
There are no more slips.
There's no other speakers?
Public hearing.
Well, are there any other public speakers? Please come forward now.
That's for...
No, this is for the Parks Master Plan.
No. Honorable Mayor Council, Diane Nygaard, 21-year resident of the great city of Oceanside. Thank you to staff for integrating El Corazon into our overall park plan. That's a great step towards really making it a park. And for starting to work on the park impact fees, which have not been updated for a very long time. But there are 3 issues I too want to call to your attention. The first is the demographic data, and as you've heard, the great increase in the senior population that does not seem to have a proportionate increase in senior facilities or programs. And as one of those seniors, I can attest that my chair yoga class at the El Corazon Senior Center always has a wait list. And the old senior center, don't laugh at that, that's true. The old senior center, the only one where we serve meals, is sorely in need of updating. I'd ask you to also consider a policy that considers opportunity areas, places where we may have excess public land that could be used for parks. The one that comes to mind first is the Las Salinas treatment plant. We are not going to need all of that facility soon. It's right next to Buccaneer Park. It's a perfect opportunity for us to improve that coastal park. And there are also the 3 areas where we're short parkland that Megan highlighted on the slide. If there's public lands by those, we surely would want to make sure that they're considered first for park uses before they'd be released. So we ask you to look at policy that would do that. Just consider it first. And third, reading the report, it's difficult to see a plan for exactly what will be built when. Page 126 includes some short-term priorities. But as this plan moves forward, it's critical that there's a rigorous public input process that develops the next 5-year CIP that will actually start to implement this plan. The public has really not been able to engage in setting those priorities as we move forward, and they really need to be part of the process. So with those 3 issues addressed, we would certainly support adopting this plan tonight. Thank you.
Joan Bachman, Alberta Street. I'm also here as part of Friends of El Corazon. I just want you to know that Diane Nygaard read the plan. It's like this thick. And we had a meeting with them and really appreciate the fact that staff met with us and that we were included through the process. So many great things have happened. But I want you to appreciate, when you hear the list from Diane, how much work went into that and how she has pulled out things that other people don't see. And so when Diane is giving you a list of conditions and things to consider and things to include, I think you should listen. I think in the past, sometimes that's been discounted, and it's aggrieved me and many others, because I think in pretty much any room, she will be the smartest person in the room. I think people would agree with me on that. If you've had the chance to be mentored by her, you would know this. And so please listen to these lists that come from Diane, delivered in letters and written form, because she is hitting the nail on the head in just about every case. And when it's not listened to, it often comes back on you. So thank you to Parks and Rec for getting the master plan done. We're thrilled about that. And Diane has been talking about park impact fees since El Corazon specific plan was approved. So it's been 10 years. She's been bringing that before you. So it is time to update that. Thank you.
Good evening, Nadine Scott, Friends of Loma Alta Creek. I want to thank staff. They did a fantastic job with the consultant and doing the inventory. It's really good. And adding in El Corazon and some of the other items, very, very successfully added to a good plan. But I agree with Diane. The public was really not engaged on this. I never heard about one meeting, and you know I like to go to meetings. So imagine my shock when all of a sudden this plan is being presented, and it's gigantic, like Joan just said. Buddy Todd is my home park. Thank you, Jack. You did vote to fund our remodeling of the park, and I always appreciate that from you. When they took out the water tank, I ran down here in my sweats. You go, well, nobody's here. Why should we vote for it? And I ran down here in my sweats and flip-flops, and you did vote for our neighborhood park. But what disturbs me, yes, you did. Thank you. It was $1 million or $2 million bucks. It was fantastic. So what disturbs me about the plan is for Buddy Todd Park, they have a proposal of like a clubhouse or a gym or a BMX park. My neighbors would croak if you put a BMX park up there. It's quiet and we're old. We're not going to be riding a BMX bike, I'm sorry. And we don't have a lot of kids in our neighborhood either. It's mainly graying, as you heard from the gentleman earlier. We're a graying neighborhood. Some of us are graying. So I would like to see robust public engagement when you do the funding plan, because we really want to participate, and I'll get some of my neighbors out for the parks. Thank you very much.
Seeing no other speakers, we'll close the public input portion. And would staff like to address several of the comments that were made?
Honorable Mayor Weiss and City Council, yes, with regard to services for seniors, staff has been talking with the Parks and Rec commissioners in regard to the need for facilities for seniors. The plan does state that for facilities we have sufficient recreation centers, and while they aren't all called out as senior centers, they can be programmed as multi-generational centers. In addition to that, with the El Corazon Senior Center development, there is a phase 2 that is planned. A portion of that is included in the Aquatic Center development as a community center, and there's still the pending section of a new quad of classrooms that would be forthcoming. That has been listed on the capital improvement project 5-year plan as a future project, and with the culmination of this study, we can move forward with planning that. So there are some senior facilities still planned. from previous designs, as well as the programming aspect. And the programming aspect is something that the Parks and Recreation Division will do on an annual basis to strategize how those services need to be met. And within our current inventory of facilities, all of our recreation facilities, determine what locations those can be held at. In regard to the outreach, staff did bring forward, at the request of the Parks and Recreation Commission, the master plan to present it to the commission 30 days in advance of asking for their action on that item. And it was made available to the public at that time to be able to comment and provide any input. And we have received comment and input. We have met with members of the community, and we have adjusted the plan accordingly that we felt we could do administratively without the direction of the City Council. In addition to those comments with El Zone and the impact fee study, we are going to move forward with that, and a contract is coming forward to the City Council December 4th to move forward with preparing an impact fee study and determine the nexus to any future development for the remaining park acres to be developed. Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you. And I think it was a very good a plan. In other words, that you did the inventory and really did a hard look at what our needs are. I think, as has been said, seniors are becoming a larger part of our population. There were things that we know or we see that is not really included as much in the report, because the report is basically more objective criteria and taking this inventory. But in terms of actual use, with the joint use with Oceanside Unified School District, as the school district improved for example, their fields, it made it more difficult for teams to have access to those fields. So what happened, there became a larger demand for field use through the city system. That is also going to happen with the Maricosta upgrades. I understand that in fact there's going to be even higher demands for field space once that is completed. So what I see is that we have had, over time, we've had increased demand because the joint use agreement that we have with Oceanside Unified, I don't know if we'd say it's 40%. I know you have to put a value on it, but I do think that as we go forward, we're having more and more demands for space. For example, football fields, which we used to be able to have teams practice on school fields, and now they don't really have that easily as access. Gyms, I think that was one of the big issues, and I don't see that Wayne Godney is here from Save Our Streets. Save Our Streets is a group that has been very active for, I want to say, almost 15 years in terms of outreach to youth and trying to change over, say, habits and provide an outlet, a very positive outlet. And we all know that youth are very, very into athletics and in competition, very healthy competition. And our youth, especially in Oceanside, I'd like to say, very proud that they win championships, and they're always out there really having a good reflection for our city. So I think that really hit home on the gyms, because we only have two. And as I understand it, while we do also have a gym at Oceanside Boys and Girls Club, I think that the last one program that was still active, I think for 10 years or so, it's probably going to close. And that is a very sad, a very sad event that we may not have, our youth will not have access to that gym. I know that when we counted the space and we said 5 acres per individuals, sometimes we think in terms of multiple use of fields, and sometimes it's just not possible to do. For example, Crown Heights has been asking for park space. It's the highest density in the whole city, and there's the high school right across the street. There are the baseball fields, and yet they have no access. There's the Boys and Girls Club just down the street with a soccer field that may or may not be accessible. And for them, there is no space. They have no place to play other than a pocket park that is a very small lot. So I think in terms of geographic, I think we still need to accept that there are certain parts of our community that couldn't walk to a park, and also the need, if we do have park space. I think I saw some letters regarding community parks, that we continue to maintain those community parks. So I was present when the commissioners voiced their concerns that they did not think this was an actual plan. I think that what they wanted was, to see priorities and action and what, how are things going to be accomplished. But you have to have funds for that. And the funding that we have is just, $6.8 million. And that's just not enough to be able to do everything that we need to do. I do agree with Ms. Nygaard that in going forward, we need to look at the demographic data, and by the way, Census 2020 is just around the corner. I do feel very strongly that we were undercounted for 2010, and we're using 2010 data. I know sometimes we use the finance department's data, but we have the most number of districts that are hard to count, that have been recognized as hard to count. And they are throughout, they are within our minority communities, as well as ages 0 to 5, our homeless communities. And the City of Oceanside has made a commitment, as well as the county through Sandag, that we are going to have accurate counts. The state of California is putting money into this. Hopefully the feds will too. But I do think that in terms of looking at our demographics, that the numbers are going to change, the total numbers as well as what our demographics are. So I hope that we'll be able to, once we collect this data in 2021, that we'll be able to make those adjustments in the plan if there are any needs. I do believe that there are going to be needs. And I do think that, we do need more land. And, as we see El Corazon starting to become the park that we all envisioned, and this was a hard thing. This went from, this was not going to be a park, an initiative, and then finally a committee created to say, okay, is this the best use of this land? And the community at large saying, yes, this is what we want, a park. So I think that was the best choice that this community made, that we needed this land for park space. But we do need more space, and I do hope that when we look at La Salina treatment plant, as it phases out, that we look at that for the expansion of the park, of the existing park. And yeah, I do agree that Diane Nygaard is a very smart woman, probably the smartest in the room, smartest person in the room. But yeah, overall, I'm looking forward. I know that people were concerned about action and staff was able to respond to that at the commission meeting and say, we are starting up and we're working on the 5-year CIP plan, and that means looking at priorities. So I think what you have is a commission that wants to work with you in terms of holding these public hearings. There was a request that there, be as public as possible. I'm sure they want to do that. And the impact studies. I mean, that is what we've been trying to, what we need. I don't know, how old are they? When was the last time? It was many moons ago. I was born, but it has been many moons. So anyway, it has been, and a minute left, thank you. It has been a really good process. I think that as we go forward, we can, we're being asked to do better, and we can do that. We need to find the finances to be able to do what we want to do. I'm going to go ahead and move adoption. And I thank everyone for their comments, and please continue to be part of this. We have a wonderful, wonderful programming. We have friends of the parks, and I mean, a lot of volunteerism. So this is a great community. Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
First and foremost, I would like to thank staff for your hard work and efforts in putting together this master plan. I know the last one was done, 23 years ago. I am in line with a lot of what Councilmember Esther has brought forward. I am not in a position tonight to move forward on adopting this plan yet. I think that it lacks some additional layers. This is a big vote, a big decision. I know when Nadine came up earlier, my first house I purchased was right off Fusat, and me and my family, we'd walk the park regularly. And so, parks are important, but they cost money, and Esther hit that on the head. To have all these resources, to have these open spaces and public facilities, it costs money. And if we don't plan correctly and we don't have SMART goals and action steps to prepare, we're going to lack the funds, and the can's going to get kicked down the road. And so I would like to take a step back, continue on, and add additional layers, which would include the potential of restructuring our Parks and Rec department. We've recently had a change of colors. Maybe with some new leadership and restructuring, we can change the way we manage our facilities and approach it more like a business would, and the free market does, and really create some additional revenues that we don't have to rely on the same old sources of revenues. We're sitting on a gold mine here in Oceanside. We all live here. We love to live here. And if we approach this from a different angle with a different lens, I think we can create a lot of additional revenue to invest in our parks. I would like to see more for our seniors. I know we have a lot going on right now, but I think we can retrofit some of the current facilities and offer additional programming, partnerships with the private sector to offer additional yoga classes, maybe on the beach, or here or there. We can really go above and beyond and, take a look at that. So restructuring, which would include, taking a second look at how we're marketing our public spaces, the fees we're charging to outside organizations that rent our public spaces, and really getting that on point, and restructuring potentially the leadership or the oversight, which I will leave that under our city manager's jurisdiction to do, but I would really like to see a robust Parks and Rec department that can say, hey, 5 years from now, we're building this, and this is how we're going to get there, and bring that plan with some teeth that I can get behind and support. But I think this is a great, great start. This is a lot of work. Like, I can't even comprehend the amount of work you guys have had to put into this. I just think we're not there yet. maybe we could take a step back, add some more teeth, look at it from a few different angles, maybe run it back through Parks and Rec Commission for additional feedback, and then come back before us. You know, there's no rush. I want to do this next plan right, because we are not going to look at it for maybe another 20 years. So, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Thank you. First of all, do we charge for all the senior and youth programs?
Deputy Mayor Feller, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, we charge for fees based upon the program that it is. So there are some fees, for example, in our senior programming where we contract with MiraCosta, there's no charge to those classes. Some of those classes are offered through a contract instructor where there's a small fee, and we have a contract where there's a revenue portion to the city and a revenue portion to the contractor who is instructing those courses. And then some of our youth programming is offset through some grant money, depending on where the location is of those programs.
Well, some of those contractors may be in jeopardy with AB 5, I think it is, with contracting that's coming forward. Anybody that's a 1099, so we're going to have to watch that pretty close. I think programming must we must make a huge effort in the areas of the Back Gate, Calle Montecito, Fireside, Pasoli, Crown Heights. East Side, I guess, is the new term, but I think they're proud to call themselves the Pasoli. There's a huge effort with SOS, Save Our Streets, to meet in those areas and do outreach to the youth in those communities. And on another note, that the basketball program at the Boys and Girls Club is out of there now. And as well, I just saw that the soccer program that was there for adults is out. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but the basketball program was a volunteer, just training kids, 50, 60 at any given time there on a couple of days a week. I had a question earlier, asked Deanna about the three areas you showed on the map that were kind of in pink or something. Those were underserved areas?
Deputy Mayor Feller, City Council, the three areas that we showed are showing that they do not have the connections or access to create a 15-minute walk to a park or a 5-minute drive to a park. It takes longer for those neighborhoods. Okay. So our recommendation is to use connections and access trails to allow them that type of walk shed.
You have in the book, in the big book, do you have French Field in there?
Deputy Mayor Feller, City Council, no, French Field is not identified in the book as a park inventory.
It's a baseball facility in the city of Oceanside. So, and Vista American Little League uses it. So it probably should be identified as an additional park. I mentioned that yesterday. So it is something that somebody could be using to allow extra, and that's right kind of directly behind Holby, but you go in off of North. I stated earlier, I think that I would, the survey of, what was it, about 5,000 mailed is probably kind of a small survey in a city of 180,000. if you're trying to get something accurate. And there weren't a lot of, besides the 600 that came in, there weren't very many people at many of the meetings. So I think this is going to be a work in progress, this master plan. And I think Diane would probably agree that unlike what earlier council member from the 90s, early 90s said, El Corazon's not a white elephant, I think she would agree with that now. I finally agree with you on something. I did plant a tree. That was the hardest ground I've ever dug in. I did want to say that we can create more uses in our parks by laying down different types of turf and multi-purpose some of these fields that could adequately help with whether it's football or soccer or baseball, whatever it is. I think those things are there. Lake Park's pretty much an underserved park in the southern part of the city, so I think that's a big deal. Pickleball, I don't get it, but it's something that old people play, so I guess I'm getting, I don't know, I must be staying too young. Anyway, so if we don't do and just keep planning, this will be kicked down the road. And I would like to at least be able to start doing with our Parks Master Plan. So I'm going to second the motion.
Thank you. I have a question for staff. So you had mentioned that you're going to be coming back with the fee study to update the fees. So within the plan, there's a potential for a new gymnasium and a number of other facilities. But the fee that we would charge developers has to be proportionate to their impact, which will be fairly low in connection to everything else. So where does the balance of that money come from?
The balance of the money outside of developer impact fees would need to come from other sources such as the general fund or grants or some other qualifying funding mechanism.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Rodriguez, no.
I guess with that, we'll go back to 21.
All right. We are back to item number 21. Again, I'll call up the first 5 speakers. Please make your way to the next available podium. Please identify your name for the record, and please speak clearly into the microphone, and all speakers will have 2 minutes to speak. Our first speaker is Joe Hill, to be followed by Russ Gentile, to be followed by John Murphy, to be followed by Daniel Eyman, to be followed by Eric Bruvold.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Joe Hill, 20-year resident. I'm trying to figure out how much money that a developer with unaffordable, and that's their words, unaffordable houses is trying to spend in the city of Oceanside. Are they trying to buy our city? They bought their way in with Via Storia back in 2015, got that passed. Last year, the 2018 initiative election, they set up a political committee with the faces of 3 farmers and their names who were anxious to sell their land, and then they contributed $1.2 million to that committee. And then after that, they spent another $2 million on their disinformation campaign to confuse the public. So we're up to a lot of money from this particular developer. They've obviously paid an unknown amount, I don't know how much that is, to the local merchants and sponsors to get their name on all of the events this year in our city. We know about the $30K for the political donations. We talked about that earlier. And they gave $10,000 to Measure X, so they're supporting that. They haven't, I don't know how much they're paying the registered city lobbyists that they've had in the city since January. But now, and on top of that, they're offering $1 million for an aggregate vision study, $500,000 for repairs to a recreation center, and that doesn't even happen until the 300th house is built. It don't happen. $100K for the climate action plan. Maybe it's used for solar, maybe it's not. $350,000 for a fire apparatus. A lot of money. Where does it stop? You guys want to let them buy the city? Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Weiss, council members, officials, staff. My name is Russ Gentile. I live in Oceanside and support council meeting item number 21, adoption of ordinance for North River Farms project. Opposition doubts the city process was followed and a valid plan delivered. Item 21 outlines evidence and testimony proving otherwise. Collectively, the developer's proposal, independent environmental impact review, public hearings, and city planner comments point to a thoughtful design refined over time. With each comment cycle, the developer is progressively committing millions of dollars to city planning, green spaces, accessible recreation, and Oceanside's agricultural tradition. Additional investment is made in sustainable design, fire prevention, first responders, and mitigation of commuter congestion in the surrounding community. This is a fair deal. Opposition has voiced the need for middle-income jobs in Oceanside. DPFG memo dated September 25th estimates 485 new jobs as part of the construction phase and 674 permanent ongoing jobs in the local economy. This strengthens the business case for North River Farms. I agree with the opposition belief that Oceanside needs affordable housing. On my daily commutes on Oceanside Boulevard, I see capacity for increased east and west traffic. I encourage city planners to pursue affordable and attainable housing development in the Sprinter corridor. All things considered, I see no material errors, omissions, or misrepresentations warranting an overturn of the council's decision. North River Farms sets a higher standard worthy of Oceanside residents. Thank you.
I would ask both sides if you could please hold your applause so we can listen to the speakers. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dan Iman, and I live at 262 Newport Pier Way here in Oceanside. My wife and I have lived in Oceanside since 1991. We love Oceanside and are involved citizens who take active roles in the community. Recently, I have read articles in the Union Tribune by Phil Deal, where he states that the majority of Oceanside residents oppose the North River Farm project. I would really like to see his research that proves this, especially given that the majority of Oceanside residents defeated Measure Y, which would have stopped North River Farms. It is also worth noting that many of Oceanside's most notable citizens have spoken before this council in favor of North River Farms. Some of them I know, some of them I know of, and all of them I respect. Some of them have sat in the seats you occupy now and had to make hard decisions that drew threats of retribution from those opposed to their decisions. They, however, did what they felt was best for Oceanside. We should all respect such dedication to the work of guiding our city to a better future. I also want my council representative, Ryan, to know that even though he does not support North River Farms, I appreciate his thoughtful consideration of it. I will not judge him on this one issue alone, but on his body of work on the council. I hope that the entire council will keep to their convictions and be swayed only by what is best for Oceanside, and not by the hateful threats of those opposed to North River Farms. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Murphy, and I live on Normount Road in Oceanside. I am here in support of North River Farms. I'd like to draw everybody's attention to the picture on the wall over here. This is probably the original development in our area, and it's not a matter of whether or not a city is going to grow. It's how the city is going to grow. I know the developer has taken over 3 years and accepted public input and has worked with the city of Oceanside to include parts of the community that would be beneficial to its residents and to Ocean City residents in general. A couple things I'd like people to think about when they're thinking about growth in the city of Oceanside. It's going to increase the tax base here. More residents, more taxes. The question is what are we going to do with those taxes? Somebody mentioned earlier that there's existing traffic issues in and around the city. I'd like somebody to tell me a city in this area that does not have that, but potentially, possibly that is from errors made on other developments before this one. More residents also means more people spending money on local businesses in Oceanside. The improvements that are being offered by the developer are going to be, the payments for those improvements are going to be borne by the people that buy houses in that area, so we're not paying for that. I know Vista 4 years ago had issues with vacant retail space. And so they made a lot of zoning changes to increase the number of residents, the number of housing units available in the city. And so now if you go through the city, you'll see fewer vacant retail space. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Eric Bruvold. And I apologize in advance if I'm mispronouncing anybody's name. Dale Imlay, to be followed by Gerard Comio, to be followed by Karen Johnston, to be followed by Phil Johnston. As I call your name, please make your way up to the microphone. Okay. If you're, yep. Thank you. Sir.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my first name's Dale, last name pronounced Emley. I'm a 50-plus year resident of Oceanside. And I basically quickly wanted to tell you folks how much I appreciate what you folks are doing on 3 fronts. One of them being the beach restoration program, since I grew up here and served here and all that kind of thing. The other one is revisiting and getting a final turn to the general plan, as well as supporting the North River Farms project. I think the agro-tourism and agro-hood concept is going to be a great look for Oceanside, especially out in the valley. It'll help clean up the region, pick it up out of where it's at now, and definitely improve the lifestyle and standards out there. And again, that's it. Pretty much just telling you guys, thank you for supporting the project, and hopefully you'll support the component to redo the zoning as well. Thank you.
Gerard? To be followed by Karen Johnston, to be followed by Phil Johnston. As I call your name, please make your way up to the front.
Hello, my name is Gerard Camoa. I've been a Oceanside resident since '76. I was here originally. I came from Milwaukee. I joined the Marine Corps. I do have respect for you, sir. The problem I have with this is if any of you have driven through that area at the hours between 3:30 and 6 o'clock, it's gridlocked through there. They're saying they're going to improve it. You put more people, you don't put more infrastructure in, it's not going to improve. I like what I've heard about a lot of the different things for the project. The thing I have problems mostly with is, like I said, the traffic. The traffic out there is horrendous. If there's a fire, which we do have had fires out in that area before, if there's anything like that, people won't be able to get out. It's a major safety violation. I don't know what else to tell you. I personally, everybody I've ever run into, and I was a mail carrier for over 35 years out here, I have never heard one person say they were for this project. They're all seniors up in the Oceana area. So when somebody says they don't know about where they got the information of who supports it, I know who doesn't support it. And that would be most of the people I've ever talked to. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Karen Johnston, and I live at 1544 Sleeping Indian Road in the South Morrow Hills. First, I don't understand why anyone wants to convert designated prime agricultural land to a sprawling housing development. But in the interest of time, I'll address just one major flaw in the North River Farms development. There's no X. Okay. The development's on a busy two-lane rural road. It's used by local residents of Oceanside, Fallbrook, Bonsall, the nurseries and farms there, small businesses, and employees and servicemen and women working at Camp Pendleton. My comments are concerning the problem with leaving the area. North River Road exits the area at Highway 76. Okay? And that's, you can see there's one lane going each way, that's it. Okay? And it exits on the other end at Vandergrift in North River Road. This is what it looks like right now, and I'd like to show you what it's going to look like with the mitigations that are in the final environmental impact report. That's it. So, anyway, let's look at another intersection. This is leaving on Vandergrift, if you're leaving Vandergrift going on to College. And this is what the intersection looks like right now, turning left. Those two lanes start here. And I'd like to show you what it's going to look like after the mitigations in the environmental impact report. There it is. So anyway, the rush hour traffic here is already terrible. Everybody's commented on it. If you're going to allow Integral to build this development, they should be required to build the infrastructure needed to exit the area. If North River Road from Vandergrift needs to be widened to 4 lanes, they should pay for it. If North River Road needs a traffic signal at Sleeping Indian or the other roads, they should pay for it. And in simplest terms, no development should be involved or allowed in the South Morrow Hills until the general plan is updated and until all infrastructure needs are assessed. Thank you.
To be followed by Amy Krajik, to be followed by Barbara Hazlitt, to be followed by Jody Williams.
Good evening. I'm Phil Johnston, Sleeping Indian Road, Oceanside. During the Lilac Fire, people were in traffic for well over an hour trying to evacuate. It's lucky the winds died when they did. The outcome could have been deadly. North River Farms will add more than 1,000 people and a comparable number of automobiles right in the middle of the evacuation bottleneck. Councilman Rodriguez states, the area will be safer because of NRF, and NRF will actually act as an evacuation location to shelter in place. However, there can be a big difference between a plan on paper and what actually happens in the real world. Many will refuse to shelter in place and will drive out on their own, adding to the blockage. Mothers will drive out to locate their children. Equestrians may drive out to help their animals. Others may drive out for a variety of reasons. Other people will try to drive in to help elderly parents and the disabled. to pick up computers, business records, irreplaceable items, medications, jewelry. If the city advises or requires people to shelter in place, an intense firefighting presence is required to safeguard them. Imagine the liability if the area were to burn with lost lives. These fire vehicles will add to the traffic. Worried and distressed residents trapped in place may need EMT assistance, more vehicles. Firefighters are greatly aided when streets are evacuated. Asking people to shelter in place removes this advantage. This questionable plan needs to be presented to the public in detail and defended. Until this happens, a zoning change which adds 1,000 more people in this area should not even be considered. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Barbara Hazlett, and I live in Oceanside, and I want to thank you for your vote in favor of North River Farms. What I witnessed when the opposition on Wednesday, November 6th, was classless. That type of behavior has gone on too long, and from some of the same people. It's not only degrading but insulting to treat anyone who does not share their beliefs or status like they don't belong. Oceanside is diverse, with people from all backgrounds, and they should be welcomed and not dissuaded to participate in a democratic process. I had a yes sign, and I was not from Solutions for Change, and as did many others. In fact, I have lived in Oceanside for 18 years. Many of my friends that support North River Farms were born and raised in Oceanside. This project checks all the boxes for me, my family, and our future, and it provides funding for Oceanside School District, public farms, attainable homes, not affordable homes, but attainable homes, and a fire station. I am glad our council decided to dream bigger. Their vote should not be questioned, and no one should be bullied by the opposition. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Amy Krajak. I'm an Oceanside resident of almost 14 years. I was one of the ones stuck outside, finally got in the building, then finally got in when the rest of them got bussed out last time. So I was able to speak, but I do want to say that, you know, for me, there's multiple issues with this project. The biggest one is the traffic. The EIR has already stated there's going to be significant impacts even with the mitigation. I will tell you where I live is going to be most impacted because I live right next to Cesar Chavez Middle School and Mance Buchanan Park. I am the only way through from Frazee, Oleander, Oleander to Gardenia out to Adams. Now, we're going to fix the bridge, great. We're not going to fix College in 76. So anybody coming from the 585, 1,200 plus cars, people, all of that, use Waze. Most of us have the Waze app, and it's going to tell them to cut through my neighborhood. We were already told that we can't get speed bumps because it affects fire department's ability to get through. We have 520 homes in my own community. We are the only thoroughfare to get through to the apartment complex behind us. So you add how many people live in those apartments, plus the 500 we have, then you add the additional 1,200 people plus cars, whatever it is, my community is going to be impacted the most. We get honked at, we've got children, we try to drive this 25 miles per hour, we get honked at, screamed at, yelled at, kids get hit, dogs get run over. I mean, I've almost been hit, with my dog. And I think it's crazy that it's great that we've done the EIR for the main thoroughfares, but we haven't looked at the smaller communities and areas that are going to be impacted. Great. Everybody back there gets a 2-lane, 4-lane road, whatever it is, but my neighborhood can't be changed at this point. 76 isn't going to be changed. None of it's going to be changed. So please look at the impact of the smaller communities next to that will be directly impacted. Thank you.
Our next 5 speakers are Jody Williams, to be followed by R.M. Williams, to be followed by Lisa Hamilton, to be followed by Jane Marshall, to be followed by Carolyn Kramer.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, the rest of the staff. Thanks again for being here.
Mr. Keim, I really want to thank you for your comments 2 weeks ago when you used the word premature. I thought that was so accurate because it is premature. We do not have a general plan. That's all we're asking for, is for the council to pause. We need the general plan update first and foremost. Then developers can configure their development to city rules instead of changing the rules to suit developers. This is not entirely your council's fault with a plan that is 30+ years old. However, it is now your council with what you're going to do. Mayor Weiss, I would like to address you particularly, sir. 2 weeks ago, you mentioned that how none of us opposed to this development even wanted the Melrose extension built, that we are against roads as well. I would like to remind you that you were given a packet back in time that Bob Nelson had worked on in quite a long time. He submitted to build North Santa Fe over to North River Road. We offered you a less costly alternative. It also minimized how many people would lose their homes and businesses as a result of eminent domain. It was also safer for all the schools that it would go by, the high school and the elementary school in that area. This isn't NIMBYism. We understand there will be growth. We are advocating smart growth. Utilize infill. These are intelligent options we present. Do you realize how far into the process of writing the general plan that you could be if you have devoted all of their time? Planning staff could devote all their time to the new general plan. Instead, they have to spend their time vetting the NRF project multiple times. Each time they came up with the same answer, and that was no. Lastly, do not forget that outstanding formal sworn complaint to the FPPC, circling like those big black clouds that we saw out there today, right? Supervisor Bill Horn's case set a precedence with the exact same circumstances as Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Horn was denied the opportunity to vote. I envision lawsuits from the developer against the city costing taxpayers millions. Again, please pause. Thank you.
My name is R.M. Williams, Gunnery Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, retired. I live at 5340 Erie Court. I've been an Oceanside resident for over 40 years, plus 20 years of those within deployments in the United States Marine Corps. If I may address Councilman Rodriguez, you've had numerous chances to recuse yourself, and you have not done so on technicalities. You continuously disappointed me in that regard. We both served our country, but you have not served your district or your constituents. It is our community, and you have not served it. You have served the developers, and you've served them well. You have repeatedly been quoted as saying, my district. You seem to have forgotten that this is our district. You are just but one person within the district. If you have any integrity left as a city councilman, you should have initially recused yourself in the matter of North River Farms voting. There's still time to do so. And I paste this thing on the picture so everybody can see it. I would like to let everybody on the registered voters of District 2 within Oceanside that a formal petition for the recall of Councilmember Rodriguez was served earlier this afternoon. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Lisa Hamilton, 323 South Ditmar, and I strongly oppose this amendment. This whole effort has been pushed by Integral, the developers of North River Farms Development, which, despite its name Farms, will wind up with very little farming, despite their promises. The proposal to staff to look into maintaining other area zoning as agricultural is a kick the can down the road way to appease the community's strong opposition to this project and guarantees nothing. The developers of other agricultural property will be just as rapacious in their pursuit of future zoning change as they have been on this project. We have a council member, Chris Rodriguez, who has serious conflict of financial interest in having voted to approve North River Farms project. In any further consideration of zoning changes of agricultural area, Councilmember Rodriguez should recuse himself from voting. He can then further his political ambitions by showing his interest is in Oceanside, not on his business interests in the remaining agricultural areas. Please vote no on this plan. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Oceanside residents.
My name is Jane Marshall, 30-year resident, and many of you know I embark on my own campaign to represent Oceanside District 4, and I think about what it means to be a public servant. First and foremost, it requires trust. Trust that you will listen to us. Trust that you will put our safety of your constituents before your ambitions. Trust that you have our back, not those that are supporting you as outlined earlier, developers, special interests. Second, it requires integrity to do the right thing when the right thing is hard to do. Pressuring our fire chief to say sheltering in place for an evacuation is not okay. Harold Schultzberger, president of the International Association of Firefighters, has been quoted saying, "Hearing anyone suggest that homeowners should not get out of harm's way is appalling. Hearing a public safety professional make the suggestion is shameless. Stay and defend is clearly a half-baked idea from people who believe that saving money is more important than saving lives." Is that what you believe? Approving this shelter in place makes the fire department stay and defend the property versus fighting the front line of the fire at the expense of all the other residents. Is this an example of doing the right thing? Third is the commitment to your constituents of Oceanside to stay the course. The community understands that Oceanside is growing. The community has spent countless hours to create smart growth and economic balance or updates to balance the many facets of our city's needs and wants. Staff is almost ready with the general plan update early next year. And yet, you'll throw us all under the bus for this and future developments? Really? This is exactly why I'm running for council.
Our next 5 speakers are Carolyn Kramer, to be followed by Philip Albright, to be followed by Tammy Rusi, to be followed by Allison Brown, to be followed by Sheila Cada.
Good evening, Council. Carolyn Kramer, Oceanside resident. Mayor and Council, please deny the adoption of an ordinance for Zone Amendment ZA 16-00005 to change the zoning designation from agricultural to planned development. This planned development, called North River Farms, which is not a farm, is not consistent with the current zoning, and the zone change needs to be denied. You have a second chance here tonight to wake up and not support this zone amendment. It is wrong to move forward with this. Take a step back and give our city the time it needs to update the general plan before any development is allowed to change our zoning laws. We do not want to be Orange County with housing sprawled out everywhere. We should learn from their mistakes and not let sprawl creep into what we have left of our agricultural lands. And Councilmember Rodriguez, you sent me an email yesterday, as I'm sure you sent to a lot of other people, and you said, well, if you sent me an email, and a lot of others an email yesterday saying you want to help make Oceanside better. Well, if you truly believe that, then you need to change your vote from the last council meeting and deny this amendment.
City manager, or this Phil Albright, 30 years, Oceanside resident. City manager, Mayor Weiss, city council members, city treasurer, city clerk. In light of the FPPC advice letter to Supervisor Bill Horn, and that his situation mirrors Councilperson Rodriguez, being that he was over a mile from the proposed Lilac Ranch project, and because his property was in the area and was recused. I'm not a lawyer, so I ask, if the FPPC decides Christopher Rodriguez is to be rescinded, and this vote goes through tonight, would that nullify this vote and maybe set up a lawsuit by the developers against the city, which none of us would want? If the city attorney, Mullen, would like a few minutes to take and review this decision I've got right here, before we go further with this vote, or take a break, that'd be great.
agritourism, agrivision does not equal high-density housing, subdivisions, or sprawl. The planning department has turned this turkey down 4 times. The gentleman who spoke about the senior population, well, we all vote. Thank you.
Hello, council members and city attorney. My name is Tammy Rusi. I'm not accustomed to speaking places like this, but I want to say that I believe that Oceanside is the greatest city in all of San Diego. I love, love, love Oceanside, and I know that part of it is because of the great work that you guys are doing here. But I really, really struggle with this North River Farms plan. As you know, many people have already talked about the traffic. If the developers want to put in Highway 76 as a highway and have bridges that come off the highway, okay, I'd be on board for that. I'm not on board for increasing more traffic. My friends and family, I don't know of anyone personally who is in favor of North River Farms. And then we have the water issue. You know, we're already going to be imposed, 55 gallons per person? So we have that issue, and we're going to have 1,000 more people. Where does this water magically come from? And then after that, the farmers can use the recycled water. And then you have a nonprofit organization who wants to suddenly sell their land for profit and remain a nonprofit organization. That doesn't make sense to me. You know, if it was a private citizen that wanted to sell their land, I'd have a different view. I think private citizens should be able to sell their land for profit. But when they went into business, they knew that the zoning was for farming, and now they want to change that. I don't think we should change it just because they want to make a profit at this point. The land should remain nonprofit. And if they want to change it, are they going to change their tax status and get for-profit taxing for all the years? I don't know. And also, I would like to ask Christopher Rodriguez to abstain from voting. I think there's a conflict of interest, as many have mentioned.
Please wrap it up.
I also request that you just say no on this development. Thank you.
Good evening. Allison Brown, Jeffries Ranch, resident 55 years. On Nextdoor this morning, Councilman Rodriguez posted, in part, I've attached some nice words from past post and action I took to remove the Melrose extension. The post was titled, Melrose Extension, Bye, Felicia. He also stated, we came together as a community and saved Oceanside over $40 million. One reply to that post said, does this mean you're going to do a 180 like you did on the Melrose project? That would be very insightful and ethical of you. Or you could just recuse yourself entirely. I say, or you could move to delay final approval of NRF. Doubtless, none of the ongoing problems noted in the first reading of the NRF project proposal have been remedied, and the same objections apply as in the sixth. I urge a motion to abort the second reading vote and move to set up NRF aside until update of the general plan is complete with South Morrow Hills Vision Plan incorporated and the NRF project reconfigured to comply. That would be best for scenario for everyone, and make you a hero in everyone's eyes, as much as, if not more, as you were when nullifying the Melrose Link Gap extension. Setting aside and delaying approval for a revised compliant NRF project, one respecting the residents and the vision for South Morrow Hills, would eliminate any discussion of favoritism towards Integral, negate the need at this time to rezone the presently agriculturally zoned land to convoluted and complicated multiple zoning in order to accommodate 585 dwelling units to be placed upon approximately 112 acres of the project. And it would allow NRF a chance to actually work with South Morrow Hills Vision Plan and comply within the general plan and that vision plan. I thank you, and I hope all of you will be heroes tonight. Thank you.
Our next 5 speakers are Sheila Cada, to be followed by Robert Gleesberg, to be followed by Larry Cornett, to be followed by Cindy Davenport.
Hello, I'm Sheila Cada. I live in Arrowwood. And you know that this is urban sprawl. It's not smart growth. First of all, the infrastructure, there's no infrastructure out there. So how are we going to pay for the infrastructure? We're going to have to rob from Peter to pay for Paul. That's not smart growth. We need to say no to North River Farms. I was caught in the traffic with the last fire. It was scary. If the building out there is going to cause more traffic, it's a disaster waiting to happen. There's many places to build in Oceanside. It's called infill, which is smart growth. Please reconsider this, realize it's not smart growth, it's urban sprawl, and vote no on North River Farms. Thank you.
Take a look at that resume. This is a resume of an expert, credible witness. And this credible witness has talked about the North River Farms. It's Dr. Lynn Rezer. And she's done a presentation on the impact of this initiative in the North River Farms area. Now, first, I want to compliment Mayor Peter Weiss for taking a position on this that takes an initiative. He's not only supporting this particular initiative, North River Farms, but he's also mandated, literally, that we move forward with the master plan. I've been an Oceanside resident for 41 years. I've lived at 3025 Sonia Court, and during that entire time, when I look at the city council, the 2 new members, if you split them off to the side, it leaves the 3 core people that made essentially a decision. So I also compliment Council Member Christopher Rodriguez for his vote and Deputy Mayor Jack Feller for his vote, because we're taking an initiative. If you get into the background behind this in terms of her study, they talk about shutting off avenues for farmers, and her study basically goes into saying that if you do this, you're going to have competition from your foreign countries. And so this particular item is a parcel, a little container of blueberries. And it looks innocent, but those blueberries came from Peru. So what we're saying here is in North County, the state of California, with the water restrictions, with the labor costs, with all these legal restrictions, it's cheaper to bring those blueberries up from Peru than it is to grow them in the United States or Canada or Mexico. If you want to see the study, I can provide it.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, Larry Cornett, and I was reminded I don't have to give you my address. And when I heard that, I realized that people knew what happened behind us when we were here. People knew that Solutions for Change paraded residents like cattle for no other reason than to fill seats. And to give props to Council Member Sanchez, when she read the letter that was picked up, telling people what they were forced to do, the council meeting should have been ended then and there, because now we're all duplicit in what happened. There were a couple of things that happened that I have to address. One is we heard from a council member who said it took all of his moral fortitude to be able to ignore the letters that he was getting and to ignore the fear. That's not your job. Ignoring the Planning Commission's recommendation, that's not your job. Your job is to listen to it. If you feel that there is a difference that you need to make, that's fine. Then you're doing your job. But to ignore it, you're not doing your job. The other thing I want to do is tell you about ethics. One thing that I teach kids, there's a difference between can and should. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Do the right thing, do what you not only can and should do, and vote down this zoning change. Thank you.
Our next 5 speakers are Cindy Davenport, to be followed by Roger Davenport, to be followed by Joan Bachman, to be followed by Barbara Collins, to be followed by Jennifer Shanbell or Schaubel.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Cindy Davenport, 541 Crouch Street, for 18 years. Changing the zoning from farmland to development for North River Farms is a very serious and harmful action. Farmland in Oceanside provides jobs for Oceanside. It provides fresh produce. It provides plants that can take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, something that we really need to do to reduce our greenhouse gases. And I'd like to remind you that you did vote 5-0 on the climate action plan for Oceanside. And that requires our city to work on smart growth development. And this project is not smart growth. There are smart growth opportunity areas already existing, 3 of them, and Sandag has recently pointed out 3 more. So there are plenty of other areas to develop. And we need to do that for our climate action plan, which will be part of the general plan, but you've already voted for it. So please do demonstrate that you understand what smart growth is and what your responsibility is under the climate action plan. Thank you.
And with that introduction, I'm Roger Davenport. I work for Cindy and 541 Crouch Street. And I just wanted to remind you that in the Climate Action Plan, which I've put page 3-35, I think, up here, smart growth policies is not just a good idea. It's not just a clever thing to do. It's our policy now. And smart growth, as they say, is compact, efficient, environmentally sensitive urban development. It's development along existing transit lines. It's development where you have infrastructure already. It's infill development. Now, as Cindy said, there were some things that Sandag identified 3 areas. One area is the town center. The other area is South Coast Highway area. The other area is along Oceanside Boulevard, just east of 5. Those are the primary areas where we could be doing infill. Things like the tides, which they are finishing up right now, is a perfect example. And so they identified 3 others that are also listed there. None of those 6 is anywhere near North River Farms. This is sprawl. It's awful. And I wanted to say one other thing, and that is when the people built that subdivision up there, I doubt if they had taken a vote that the locals would have approved it.
Well, I've been asked to take a short bathroom break, so we'll reconvene in about 7:45. Okay. I'm going to ask if you are intending to speak, if you could please turn your speaker slip in, because after this next speaker, we will not be taking any more speaker slips. So if you want to call the next speakers.
Our next 5 speakers are Joan Bachman, to be followed by Barbara Collins, to be followed by Jennifer Shanbell or Schaubel, I apologize, to be followed by Donna Geierman, to be followed by Louise Balma.
Good evening, Council. Joan Bachman. We know we're going to grow. We're very clear on that. But with this project, you've just opened the doors to uncontrolled growth. I think the thing that you need to reconsider tonight is the failure to learn from what's been happening. When you put more homes there and you widen the road and you make it better, It just adds more traffic. Then you make it better, and you widen it again, and you add more traffic, and you make it better. And every time someone complains about traffic, you make it better. You just pave more dirt. There's no end to it. And so thinking that these improvements are going to help is really old thinking. We know more than that. And I see a lot of that sometimes, hearing about ideas of privatizing our parks. Been done, doesn't work. We need to learn from the past. We have been there, done that on all this stuff. You see, many of the people here are from this side of town. We're supporting keeping this open space, which puts the density in our area, because that's what makes Oceanside unique. We go from an urban area with wonderful single-family neighborhoods that we're going to be able to save, all the way to rural, to truly rural land. No other city is doing this. Carlsbad is dense from one end to the other, all the way down to San Diego. We are the only ones. And if you let this old thinking keep happening here, we are going to lose that all. And you're going to end up with these bridges over the river and everything else that will just simply end up paving all of Oceanside, all of Fallbrook, Monzal, all the way to Temecula, and we are LA. So this is the time that you have a chance to reconsider doing that, because we know it doesn't work. I-15 is 9 lanes stopped in both directions twice a day. So 9 lanes doesn't work. How many more do we need? 20, 30? So please rethink this and stop using old logic, and let's get to smart growth. Thank you.
You can leave it up here, Joan. Okay, thank you. Hello, City Council members, Mayor, and Deputy Mayor. My name is Barbara Collins. I'm a 20-year resident, and I'm here to represent the Sierra Club. This project is a perfect example of sprawl development with the strain on city services, traffic congestion, greenhouse gases, and air pollution that comes with that. The developer plans to offset these increased emissions with reductions somewhere else, not in this area, and ultimately they could come from anywhere in the world. We don't believe that that will meet state standards, and we have a legal opinion on that. It was written by Superior Court Judge Timothy Taylor last year in his decision in favor of the Sierra Club in a lawsuit that was brought against other sprawl developments that were approved by San Diego County. He said that anywhere in the world, offsets are not enforceable, not verifiable, and they violate CEQA. Judge Taylor said that California's cap and trade program is very different. It limits offsets to projects within the United States, and offset credits can only be used to meet up to 8% of a participant's annual obligation. Judge Taylor further said that the failure to evaluate smart growth alternatives was a violation of CEQA. This project is the opposite of smart growth. The Sierra Club supports smart growth, near where we work and shop, near public transit, and in the core of our city. Oceanside must develop with smart growth, not stupid sprawl. One final point, calling North River Farms affordable housing would make Orwell proud. It's a housing tract development, and it's not a farm, and it's not affordable housing.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Schabel. I live here in Oceanside on Loganberry Way. About 4 years ago, I worked for the USGS as a bird biologist. Most of my work was on the San Luis Rey riverbed here in Oceanside, where I monitored an endangered bird species called the least Bell's vireo. My territory was very close to the property, the proposed project site. From this experience, I know that the habitat just beyond the border of the proposed project is prime breeding habitat for this bird. I went out there this year during breeding season, and standing at the edge of the farm there, I could detect a least Bell's vireo within 20 feet. That was just one of several that I observed in the area. That really disturbed me. I cannot comprehend how anyone could think to build right next to the river, right next to this beautiful riparian habitat that is home to so many bird species and other wildlife. This bird is federally protected under the Endangered Species Act. It is against the law to harm this bird, and that includes disturbing its habitat. I have no doubt that this project would be a disturbance to this sensitive species. I hope that you will respect this law and oppose this project. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. At this point, the applicant's saying that half of them will be attainable housing. I believe it's in the mid 500,000s. Not long ago on Facebook, on their paid ads, it showed homes starting at 400,000. So now there's already a big jump. My concern is other developments. There's one in Napa called Register Square. I don't know if you can see that. They can get any larger. What it's saying is an article from the city council meeting, and their people stated to city council to get it approved that the dwelling units will be offered for sale between $350,000 and $500,000. A key draw for young professionals and retirees. One of the things that's important to us as great design is making all the units affordable for the citizens of Napa. Now fast forward, because City Council approved it thinking they were getting something for their citizens. They started at $754,000. Then they went up, then other units were $940,000. They went all the way up to $1,595,000 for these units. And it's in writing. This is from Register Square. You can see their logo. What is going to guarantee it's attainable at 585? Nothing. It seems like every year every election, we see more and more developer money coming in. And it's worked to get people in. It's only going to work once. Listen to the people, and you'll get voted again. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, Louise Bama, South Moore Hills residents, and I've pretty much worked on the AgriVision Community Plan for over 10 years, and it was because of that I recused myself from the Planning Commission vote when we brought this project forward. At our last Planning Commission meeting, we were updated with the 2019 legislation that has just been enacted. AB 747 states a requirement that general plans have to have a safety element that identifies evacuation routes and their capacities. This was a Mike Levin bill, I guess it just came up. How can the city satisfy this requirement with entitlement of North River Farms with the additional traffic to North River Road, with the two intersections that lead to the College Bridge that are not and cannot be mitigated? This route is also the evacuation route for Fallbrook and Bonsall. Doesn't that create potential problems for Oceanside to try to enact and satisfy this requirement? The cart was put before the horse, as we all know. And Mayor Weiss, you had the wherewithal to try to come up with an idea for the moratorium and a 12-month stop to try to work on our plan that we started over 10, 12 years ago. But what you should have done was actually deny without prejudice North River Farms and let the plan actually happen first, and then they could come back and build. I'm not against development. I'm just against development that hasn't been planned. It would have given our city staff enough time to actually evaluate all the 3,500 acres and assess the infrastructure needs for everybody out there. This project will set the direction for South Moore Hills, and the impact to the remaining landowners and farmers will be negative. They'll have to pick up all that extra infrastructure that North River Farms is taking. So I would hope that you would reconsider. Thank you.
Our next 5 speakers are Larry Balma, to be followed by Karen Green, to be followed by Victoria Higgins, to be followed by Aaron Morin, to be followed by Kristen Kelly.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I'm Larry Balma, President of the South Morrow Hills Association. I applaud every one of you for voting on the mayor's motion, seconded by Ryan Keim, that sends a very strong message to staff that all new projects in South Morrow Hills not fitting in the current zoning ordinance will be tabled until the South Morrow Hills Community Plan is completed and entered into the city's general plan. We have worked closely with staff on our ideas and concerns for orderly and sustainable future development in South Morrow Hills. This includes agritourism opportunities, estate homes, clustered housing, and agriculture. North River Farms has used every one of our talking points in their proposal, but the project is way too dense. The farm plots are too small to be successfully farmed, and the commercial space will never be built. Also, many items cannot be mitigated. Without a completed community plan, the city has no cost projections to adequately assess the infrastructure charges. I don't believe that the state law allows you to use a statement of overriding considerations for evacuation routes and to enter this change into our city's general plan. This sounds like endangering Oceanside, Bonsall, Fallbrook citizens and future residents in South Morrow Hills. What about Integral's hired consultant making a change to the FEMA map of the San Luis Rey River floodplain so they could build homes on top of it? Your staff could find no reason to approve North River Farms as proposed. Please trust our city staff, deny North River Farms, and vote no on adoption of the zone amendment at this time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Green, South Morrow Hills resident, resident of Oceanside 40 years. I'd like to urge the City Council to not approve the ordinance tonight at this time. We've heard, I think, some very compelling arguments that it's just the cart before the horse. This opportunity, this land, the opportunity of it is not going away. It's important that we have the updated long-range plan for Morrow Hills such that the North River Farms project can be evaluated for conformance with that plan. The EIR clearly states that there's cumulative, significant, unmitigatable impacts associated with this project in terms of growth inducement for Morrow Hills. It's very important that future development be considered in the context of a plan. Like I say, the opportunity is not going away. Just don't approve an ordinance before this project has an opportunity of being evaluated for the plan that you were going to be approving in the future. That's one point. The second is public safety. I'm very concerned with the wording under your findings. You know, 3 of them deal with orderly development, which I've addressed, but the rationale for approving this project is public health, safety, and welfare for the community. North River Road, the mitigations for traffic are not all in place. They don't even know how they're going to come up with the funding or whether they can get approval for some of these mitigations that are proposed. Furthermore, they propose implementing the traffic mitigations, hundreds to up to 500 homes, the building permit before they would even go into place, putting public safety at risk. Please do not approve this ordinance at this time. Thank you.
Hello, Victoria Higgins, South Morrow Hills resident. On Monday morning, I was driving down onto North River Road, and I got very excited because the SIG alerts from San Diego, as you know, never cover North County, but there was one for us. I-76 was blacked up into Bonzel going west. And the reason was there was a power pole down on North River Road, and it was closed. And all the traffic that uses North River Road was left on 76. And that already overcrowded road became a SIG alert. Think about what this project's going to do to us. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erin Moore. I live at 1241 Chambord Court, Oceanside. I have business. My family's operation is in Avocado Grove in Southmore Hills. The thing is that I want to really stress upon, and I agree with Larry and Louise on getting our plan going, because we want fire evacuation routes first. And we need to really consider the impacts, because even though you have those two little dinky fire stations that they're going to be supplying, is it really going to help when a real big major fire comes blowing through there? No. They can't even do anything if they're on site with the fire. You have to wait for backup. That's what I was told. And if that's the case, that's more waiting. And while the houses are being burnt down, I mean, really, what's the rush? Why are we here? I mean, safety comes first before the housing and planning. So I would listen to your planning staff before I even consider this. So I recommend you to vote no tonight, and I'm seriously recommending it. So please, vote no. Thank you.
5 speakers are Kristen Kelly, to be followed by Ellen Bartlett, to be followed by Diane Nygaard, to be followed by Teresa Masters, to be followed by Austin Wright.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council persons. My name is Kristen Kelly, and I currently live in the Wheelan Ranch area. I grew up on the Melrose and Oceanside Boulevard area. I urge you to not adopt this ordinance until the infrastructure is in place before allowing those homes to be built. Forgive me, I'm deathly afraid of public speaking. Just because we previously built on farmland doesn't mean we have to keep doing it, and doesn't mean we should keep doing it. Furthermore, the safety. Sheltering in place was never meant to be the first option. Evacuation's always the first option. Shelter in place is the last resort. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Bartlett. I'm a longtime Oceanside resident. I'm going to read a short statement for Ruben Major before I take a minute for myself. Ruben's an EMT paramedic trainer and operates emergency medical service recertification programs. This is what he asked me to say tonight for him. He was out of town for business. I am not only concerned for the life safety of individuals forced to shelter in place, but also for the potential long-term impact on our environment. If this project is permitted to proceed, it will open up the floodgates to the destruction of our core community values. And that's Ruben. I would also like to speak on behalf of myself. I'm a retired high school science teacher and taught at Oceanside High School for 24 years. And everything about this project goes against everything that I taught my students during those 24 years in my science class about being good stewards of the earth and about reducing our carbon emissions and about taking care of our ecosystems and our native species in this area. So it just makes me extremely sad and to think about that we might be destroying this habitat forever. Once you build on it, we can never bring that back again. And I was here and I watched when you all voted for the Climate Action Plan, and this is in direct opposition to what the Climate Action Plan stands for, and how can you vote for that and then turn around for the 3 of you that voted for this project justify that? I have no idea. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Teresa Masters, to be followed by Austin Wright, to be followed by Shauna Schwartz.
Hello again. I am speaking for someone else, and I am reading. Please reconsider your vote from November 6th regarding approval for North River Farms housing development on farmland, not a farm. I urge you to save our farmlands, even at this last minute, for future generations of people to enjoy the area. It is the right thing to do. Your 3-2 vote hurt us, the people and voters of Oceanside, and we won't forget that. In 41 days, it'll be 2020, a big election year for some of you in our city. Think of how this vote will look to we, the voters, then. We protesters are mostly women with high energy levels in our 50s and 60s to dispute what you have done to our city. I'm 88. I'm high energy, and I'm still going on. We will channel our energies to defeating you at the ballot box. A photo is 1,000 words, and your public vote will be on display. Why don't you look at how we've become a bedroom community versus a bustling, employer-built city like Carlsbad is? Bring in more employers and not fast food places, but ones of quality with good paying jobs. I ask you to do the moral and proper thing to turn down North River Roads, banish them from our city forever, or forever from our city. This is from Elaine Safola, who is ill at this moment. And in addition to what she said about North River Roads not feeding into 76 properly because of a down power pole. It was down again yesterday. It was a crawl on 76 because North River Road had an issue. It's twice without fires. What the hell? Bye.
Hello, my name is Austin Wright. This is my wife, Paige Walters. We live at 2410 Skylark Drive. I'm almost completely deaf, and she can't talk, so public speaking is a little bit difficult for us. November 6th was the most corrupt time I've ever seen Oceanside. I came here to try to speak. I couldn't even get in the up the stairs, and I had my wife at home, and I said, I'm going to go check it out. I'm going to check out the lines, see how long it'll take. I went back to her. I said, hey, it's just too long. She said it was too long, and we weren't able to speak last time. In between the vote, I reached out to the Public Integrity Unit. I reached out to the San Diego Grand Jury. Mayor Peter Weiss, thank you for taking our call. We were able to speak with you for about 20 minutes over the phone. Deputy Mayor Jack Feller, we were able to come to your office and speak to you for an hour. Basically, I believe that Councilman Christopher Rodriguez not only will not recuse himself, but he cannot recuse himself. I believe Rodriguez has progressed from merely corrupt to compromised. I believe if Rodriguez votes no on this, severely bad things will happen to him from North River Farms, from other investors, developers, his real estate. Mayor Weiss, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller, if you are able to vote no, that would be that would be ideal. If not, if you can delay the vote, just so we can see if there's any beyond corruption, it's gone to being compromised. Thank you.
Shanna Schwartz, to be followed by Diane, I apologize, Volkel or Volkel?
Wolke.
Volke, I apologize.
Hello, my name is Shauna Schwartz. I'm a registered Oceanside voter. And first, after listening to all the pro-North River Farms people tonight, I just want to thank all of you and Integral for trying to save poor East Oceanside. The neighborhood really went down after that Target came in and the Sprouts came in and that winery and the new Regal that's being built might even have reclining seats. What are we going to do? What's going on with the neighborhood? Thank you. Oh my gosh, so unbelievable. On August 14th, this council asked us to respect the work of the Planning Commission, and yet the three of you voted against them last week. Mayor, I'm disappointed as an appointed official you directly voted against those impacted. I know you're frustrated with traffic complaints, but this is a disaster waiting to happen. Mr. Feller, you were part of the Valley's growth with the Porta Subs in one of the first developments, and it was awesome. Porta Subs and the video store next door were part of my childhood. It saddens me that you sold us out. And Mr. Rodriguez, while campaigning, you yelled at me on the phone when I questioned your loyalty to North River Farms versus Oceanside residents. Unfortunately, your vote last week proved my hesitation was correct. I'm disappointed, but this is Oceanside, so I'm not surprised. So gentlemen, I look forward to working on the campaigns against the three of you in next year's election. Mayor Weiss, Deputy Mayor, council persons. My name is Diane Wolke, and I'm one of the original members of the Arrowwood community since Phase 4A in 2003. I just wanted to take this opportunity to state that, contrary to what the second speaker tonight had to say, he does not represent the entire population of Arrowwood. There are many of us that are opposed to this project. In fact, there is currently an online poll, and at present it shows that 80% of Arrowwood residents are opposed. I'd also like to speak in the context of being a retired advanced practice nurse of over 2.5 years, of over 2.5 decades. And as such, I have serious health and safety concerns in relationship to this project. One of the traffic mitigation issues that really has not been brought up is the unproven traffic mitigation issue of the roundabouts that are proposed. Excuse me. The current plan shows the roundabout here. And the proposal, as I understand it from reading through the documents, it would be at North River Road, one at Wilshire, and another at Sleeping Indian. If there were a single accident coming through one of those roundabouts during an evacuation, there will be no evacuation. In fact, in 2016, such an accident took place involving a water tanker, I believe it was in Ventura County, in which the rig came around the roundabout and rolled, killing one of the firefighters. We already have too few firefighters in this city. Please vote no to the rezoning, and please do not support this project at this time. Thank you.
Jeannie Iman? And I apologize, Diane Nygaard's agenda slip was for another item. Jeannie Iman? Eman? No?
I'm sorry?
No, nothing. Yours.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez?
Okay, that was 38 people who spoke against the project and 8 people who spoke in favor of the project, for a total of 46 people. We are here today to adopt zone changes that will dramatically change Oceanside, its economy, its ability to be sustainable. Our goal is for Oceanside to be sustainable economically, environmentally, through 2050 and beyond. And this is going to stop that from being able to happen. We only have 5% left of our ag land, and it is very, very special place, South Morro Hills. So special that it is the one place that we have not had planned any development. All development was centered on infill, and our RENA requirements would be completely satisfied once that is built out. There is no question that we can satisfy our RENA requirements through infill. This is an urban sprawl project generated, which should very rarely, this zone amendment should very rarely happen, especially since we are in the middle of updating our general plan. This Melrose project, Melrose, when you go up and down 15, you see signs that say no Melrose, no Melrose. This Melrose, which is already check against it, has been rejected by staff and by the Planning Commission several times. And each time, very few changes. It does not meet any state or regional requirements. It will not meet any of our RENA needs because our RENA needs have to be low and very low. That is where we need our numbers, low and very low, not moderate, and this is definitely not moderate either. So low and very low. This so-called attainable housing is not something that is going to help our city's requirements for housing. It is not smart growth. It's not on transit-oriented. It's not transit-oriented development. Does not provide any affordable housing. Does not include solar. Violates state greenhouse gas requirements. And the worst part about this, it is unmitigable. It will create unmitigable traffic impacts and impacts to public safety. And of course, as we saw at the last hearing where we saw different developers coming to speak in support, this is definitely development inducing. And that is something that it's not supposed to be. This is such a controversial project that if it were to happen, and I think it should wait until after we do our updates to our general plan, it is so controversial as is that I believe the people should decide on the ballot whether this should go forward. I don't see how this supports us in any way whatsoever in terms of our vision for being sufficient, self-sufficient. We started a vision 10 years ago with South Morro Hills as a joint project to do agritourism. We knew that we needed to do something to ensure the viability of our farmland because there's nothing out there, no water, no sewer, no improvements, and it would cost the city's general fund to have to subsidize all those services. What we get in return is nothing. And I'm sorry that the first time that I heard from our department about sheltering in place, that's the very first time. And it has to be the last resort. There is no way that I will suggest to any of our citizens that you should not evacuate. There is no way. Public safety cannot be overridden and should never be overridden by its elected representatives. So I am hoping that my colleagues will change their minds, because this is not a good project, and at the very least, it should wait until after we do our update to our general plan. We started with two very important elements. We started with our climate action plan. We were one of the last cities to do that in the county, and also our economic development plan, because we are seriously in trouble here. We've got the lowest jobs to residents ratio in the whole county. We are not short housing, let me tell you. We are completely unbalanced. This is black letter law, black letter facts. We're not making this up. The idea that we can have housing there and also some retail that, of course, will never make it. We have this transit center on North River Road, and what's the other road? And it's failed. It's absolutely failed. And so now we're looking at converting the commercial part of it into housing or some other use. We have such a vision for Oceanside. We can be the best, but this project itself is taking us back. It's taking us so long to climb out of our economic situation. And the one thing that we haven't been able to do is increase our jobs so that we stop putting more traffic on our roads, so that our residents will be able to have livable jobs and be able to afford the houses that we've already been building. So I am asking my colleagues to please change your minds. This is in the best interest of our city. And if it doesn't happen, then we need to put this on the ballot. If the council won't do it, then I feel very strongly that the people need to put this on the ballot. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the city attorney to address the FPPC issue, if you could, please.
Sure. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, two or three of the speakers mentioned FPPC advice letter involving Bill Horn in 2015, and I think that related to the Lilac Hills project. We did receive letters from Mrs. Hill, Mrs. Orbright, I should say, and Mr. Joe Hill, and I addressed the conflict issues in those letters back to them earlier this month. I also copied the council, so they're part of the administrative record. The issue in that advice letter dealt with a FPPC regulation that was in effect in 2015. And that FPPC regulation has subsequently been amended by the FPPC in 2019, and it essentially installed a bright line rule so that if a public official is within 500 feet of the project site, they're effectively automatically disqualified from voting and need to recuse themselves. If they're within 500 feet and 1,000 feet, then there has to be additional analysis conducted based on the language of the regulation. But if the public official's property is more than 1,000 feet, then they are presumed not to have a material financial effect. And that presumption can only be overcome by clear and convincing evidence of a substantial effect. So the intent of that FPPC regulation was to establish a bright line rule that we could more easily implement. And that is the regulation that is in effect today, not the regulation that's cited in that advice letter.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez, that was most of that was almost word for word when we did Arrowwood in 2002. So there's, I'm just explaining that this entire city was farmland. And you all know that.
Arrowwood predated us, Jack.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
The decision here is we've voted on this. I've reviewed it, and I'm satisfied with what I've heard so far. You know, the signs. I should really not say anything about the signs because it's. I don't know who the majority is because I.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you. I am. There's not really much more to say. I move adoption at this point.
Councilmember Sanchez, your light's on.
Yeah, I understand that I have another minute 52. First of all, Arrowwood was completely different. It was a community planned project that included a lot less density and also created some public benefits, including school, parks, just a lot of really good things. But what I want to say is, we know what the law says, but we also have an obligation to our community to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And what I think we have right now is the appearance of corruption. And this has not happened for a long time. We have gone years without having to have this kind of dialogue where it clearly the majority of the community, our own staff that is absolute, you cannot accuse our staff of being anti-development. They said no. We need to avoid the appearance of corruption, and right now we have that appearance, and I do also join with the community in asking Councilmember Rodriguez to recuse himself. Thank you.
Second that motion, Mr. City Attorney.
This is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside, California, amending the zoning map designation from agricultural A to plan development PD and amending the zoning district land use designation consistency matrix of Article 2 of the 1992 zoning ordinance ZA 16-00005 to support the North River Farms project located on North River Road in the northeastern portion of the city.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2. Keim, Sanchez, no.
We will adjourn to 3:30 on Wednesday, December 4th.